up between our two countries. That is why this is the greatest alliance for prosperity and security I think the world has ever seen. Whenever necessary, we've absolutely backed each other up, and that's at the core.
Could you take on Russia by yourselves?
Well,
all right, one or two more. Yes, ma'am.
In his remarks at the Munich Security Conference, Vice President Vance condemned free speech violations in the UK. Particularly, could you respond? What is your message?
I have an idea. We have the man right here. Come on. Let's go, JD. We're putting you on stage.
Great. Yeah, look, I said what I said, which is that we do have, of course, a special relationship with our friends in the UK and also with some of our European allies, but we also know that there have been infringements on free speech that actually affect not just the British. Of course, what the British do in their own country is up to them, but also affect American technology companies and by extension American citizens. So that is something that we'll talk about today at lunch.
we've had free speech for a very, very long time in the United Kingdom, and it will last for a very, very long time. Well, no, I mean, certainly we wouldn't want to reach across US citizens, and we don't, and that's absolutely right. But in relation to free speech in the UK, I'm very proud of our history there.
We discussed AUKUS, though. We've been discussing AUKUS with the Australians and the Brits. Were you discussing AUKUS with the Prime Minister, sir?
What does that mean?
AUKUS, the Australia-US Defence Alliance.
Yeah, well, we'll be discussing that. We've had another great relationship, and you have too, with Australia.
Yeah.
We've had a very good relationship with Australia, please.
Mr. President, while we have the Vice President here, are you both disappointed that the AfD didn't come first in the German elections, given your previous support for them?
No. Whatever happens with Germany, look, the relationship has been very strong with Germany, but we'll have to see what happens. They have a lot of things going on right now. We'll have to see. No, I'm not disappointed about anything. If anything, you would say that the group that we would be most opposed to lost, and but we got along with them also. We have a very good relationship with all groups in Germany.
Former Blackwater CEO Eric Prince was on our channel News Nation. He was talking about his proposal to use private forces to assist in deportations. Have you read that proposal, and do you support it?
No, I haven't seen it. I don't think it's necessary. Our people are doing a phenomenal job. I wouldn't be opposed to it necessarily, but I'd go to our military people, and I'd go to Tom Holman and Christie. I'd go to the various and ask, but I don't see it as being. We're doing unbelievably in getting people out, getting criminals out, people that should have never been here, that the Biden administration with their stupid open borders should have never allowed. They came in from prisons and jails and mental institutions, and gang members and drug dealers coming into our country like this. We're getting them out, and we're doing really well. I mean, the level of effectiveness has been incredible. Everybody's talking about it. How about one more?
Mr. President,
you've asked.
Mr. President, one on the Middle East.
Go ahead. You look so nice. Here we go. Here's the kill.
Mr. President, are there areas specifically of Ukraine that you're talking about in giving back, specifically Crimea? Have you gotten to those details yet on such an agreement?
Well, you mean the areas that were taken?
Yeah.
There are a lot of areas that were taken. Yeah, we've talked about it. A lot of the sea line has been taken. And we'll be talking about that, and we're going to see if we can get it back, or get a lot of it back for Ukraine, if that's possible. We'll be seeing about that, okay? Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
We're heading out.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
He's answered 1,009
Thanks,
questions.
guys.
The first 30.
Good evening. Welcome to the Political Asylum. Well, you've just seen what's been going on in Washington. I do believe we'll return there fairly soon. That's a kind of informal press conflab with the media, obviously Starmer and JD Vance and Trump. And as I understand it, fairly soon they'll reconvene for like an official press conference, standing in front of podiums and all that. But I'm with Greg Swenson tonight from the Republican Overseas Organisation here in London. He's been watching it intently with me. I think the takeaways from what we've just seen in the last half an hour or so in that kind of informal setting, Greg, are old grovelling Starmer. I got a letter from the King, always inviting you for a state visit. And of course, Trump's all over that like a rash. You know, he loves that. So that is a stunt that was almost inevitable, to try to suck up to Donald by saying, I've got a letter from the King. He wants to invite you for a very rare second state visit. That was always unprecedented and always on the card. So not a bad move by the Brits. Bit kind of gauche, bit obvious, but you know, that's not a bad idea. Get on the right side of Donald. But I liked that little joke he just made, where, I mean, there was a dynamic in that conversation. It was Keir Starmer trying to say, we're such good friends, I've got free speech, we're marvellous, yeah. And Trump sort of basically saying, right, okay. It's very important that any peace deal that must be lasting, and then Trump goes, you want to deal with Russia on your own? There's a dynamic going on there, isn't there?
Yeah, I think President Trump does really well in these situations. I think, at least from what I've seen, Keir Starmer is doing better than expected. Maybe the bar was set pretty low, but it seems to be a pretty relaxed, pleasant conversation within the group.
Yeah, which it would be. I mean, you see, the interesting thing about this sort of White House theatre here is, and when they go for the real press conference fairly soon, we'll see how long it goes on. Starmer hates press conferences. He hates talking to the media. He hates talking to anybody, really. Certainly, that's feelings mutual with everybody else. But Trump loves it. Trump loves it. So I don't know how long they've set aside for this formal press conference, but you know, knowing Trump, it could take 3/4 of an hour, it could take 3 hours.
He could just go on forever. But this is a much better forum for the Prime Minister. I agree with you there. I don't think it's going to be quite as beneficial to him, you know, being on a podium. That's going to be tough.
Yeah. Listen, here's what we've got to bear in mind. I've heard a lot of reports today. I've been watching this all afternoon on the various news channels, and the narrative coming out of the White House is this, that, you know, these European leaders, they come and they go. We've had Meloni, we've had obviously Macron, and they go in there and they come out saying, yeah, he said he was going to do this and he said he was going to do that, and then one day later they're completely confused because he's gone back on it. So on Monday, everybody said, oh, Macron did very well, really brought him into line, really just calmed him down and said that he would have to help with Ukraine. And what was it? Was it today or yesterday? We're going to play yesterday. He had that sort of cabinet meeting stroke press conflab again, and this is what he said about Macron's beloved EU, the European Union. So this is one day after, or hang on, let's get this right. This is two days after he basically told Macron, everything you want, that's a deal. Yeah, we go forward together, us and Europe. This is what he said 2 days later.
The European Union's it was formed in order to screw the United States. I mean, look, let's be honest. NATO you can forget about. I think that's probably the reason the whole thing started.
So they used to say this about Tony Blair and Bill Clinton, that no one ever left a meeting with them without feeling that they'd agreed to everything they'd asked for, everything they wanted. They always came out of the day, oh, the Prime Minister was amazing. He's going to do everything we've asked. Same for Clinton. Oh, Bill Clinton, what a guy. He just said, yes, he's going to do it. Yeah, I can't believe how successful I was. And then they find out he's not going to do it at all. But Blair was the same. And I think in a sort of more theatrical, kind of almost comedic way, Donald Trump is the same. He'll be your best friend, shake hands with you like he did with Macron for about an hour, and agree and say, yeah, forward together, we're the best of chums. And then 2 days later, they pull the rug from right under your feet.
And I think, you know, the pro at that was Ronald Reagan. He used to have Tip O'Neill, who was the Speaker of the House during the Reagan years. He was a famous Democrat and one of the best speakers of all time. And he would march up to the White House and they'd have a drink and they'd have some laughs and everything was great. And then Tip would walk back down the hill, and Reagan would just say no to everything he just agreed to. Not even agreed to, but at least acknowledged, yeah, let me work on that. You know,
so
Mr.
all of
Speaker.
these European leaders, and I think Keir Starmer is destined to be the latest of a growing list of confused European leaders, are in a state of confusion. Macron's in a state of confusion now. Maloney probably less so because they're on the same page politically.
They are, and she has support at home. The rest of these clowns around Europe are really disappointing support at home. They're not polling well. Most of them won't be in office in a year. Well, the Germans, I would have said that 2 weeks ago. But it's not a great moment for the leaders in Europe that are kissing the ring to a certain degree.
And that was, you know, I mean, I understand what Starmer's doing. He's trying to get on the good side of Trump.
He has to do it.
And well, he should. As you say, he has to. But, you know, typical Starmer, he just doesn't do anything with any panache or style. That was excruciating, wasn't it? He was really crawling up to him, wasn't he?
And at least Macron has a little bit more personality, and he was comfortable, and he reached out, touched his arm, you know, corrected him in a really polite way, showed a little confidence, and I'm not sure we're going to see that from Keir Starmer.
Yeah, that's what worries me about this. Is very important. I mean, I suspect Trump knows what he's going to do, whether or not he has a meeting with Keir Starmer. I don't think Keir's words or presence will change the dial, move the dial one bit. I mean, last week, Trump was asked by the press corps, so Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of Britain, is coming to see you next week at the White House. and Trump went, yeah, he kind of asked. I said, okay, yeah, he can come, yeah. It doesn't mean much to him.
Yeah. It's I mean, at least he got the audience. I mean, it would have been pretty outrageous if the president said no. But, you know, it is the United Kingdom. He is the prime minister. So, you know, good for Trump for having him. But, yeah, I'm with you, Kevin. I don't think he's going to change his mind on anything.
Yeah, and what he's been doing, I mean, what we just heard there, the EU was invented to screw the United States. I mean, I think it is among the reasons the EU was invented, not the only reason, but it's not a bad point. And the EU is traditionally very anti-America. So Trump has got a point there. But what his whole rhetoric in the last couple of weeks has been, you're on your own. You know, we're not going to back you up militarily. Ukraine, he sees as a European problem, and he wants to concentrate on China. Thanks very much.
And so here we are defending the Europeans, and granted, there was some merit to that during the Cold War, especially after World War II, but even during the Cold War, you know, we had more of a partnership. Granted, America was the most powerful part of it, but you know, the European economies combined are 10 times the economy of Russia. Why do the Americans have to bail out the Europeans when they're quite capable economically of having decent militaries and being able to? I mean, it wouldn't be a close contest if they actually focused on defense and security.
Totally. I'll tell you what I found really interesting was this. So, you know, right back to Trump's last presidency, and by the way, everybody has agreed with him around the world. You European nations, you other NATO members, it's about time you stepped up to the plate and paid the agreed rate on your defence spending. In other words, 5% of your gross domestic product. Now, you know, that is a bit of a long shot. Even America only pays 3.38, but you've got Poland, I think, is 4.1%. Yeah, it's interesting, the nearer that relations get to Russia. So he's been saying this for a long, long time. You've got to start paying more. And all the European leaders, yeah. It's only now that he's saying, well, you can pay more or not, but we aren't going to be there to help you. So it has dawned on Starmer and all the EU leaders, we're on our own here, and therefore suddenly they are trying to raise their defence budgets, not because Trump asked them to or told them to, but because they realise America isn't going to back them up.
And it's a shame that President Trump had to get to this point. He's been saying this for 8 years, and you know, and American presidents have been saying it for a long time. Even Barack Obama was saying it. So, you know, and they responded a little bit during Trump's first term. Not that, not significantly, and not the big economies, of course. So, look, I mean, he asked for 5%. If he gets 3%, he'll be happy. That's just negotiating. But it is really criminal that they sat on their hands during Trump 1.0 and even the early Biden years. And it was only the invasion, and they still didn't respond. I mean, they really haven't kicked anything into gear since the invasion. It's been 3 years. So this is something that America has to do. Otherwise, they're not going to respond.
Yeah, I love Starmer, by the way, just telling them, we've had free speech in Britain for a very long time, and we will continue to have free speech in Britain. I'm very proud of our free speech. No, not with you in charge. You are the enemy of free speech, Starmer. We know how you operate, and J.D. Vance nailed you 2 weeks ago in Munich, didn't he? America, Trump and J.D. Vance and that administration, they view Starmer exactly the same way as they review the other EU leaders, They think that the European leaders, especially, not just including Starmer, but especially Starmer, are weak and woke. And Starmer is just that. I'll tell you what we'll do. Let's go to break now because we're still waiting for this press conference, and we'll come back in just a little while.
We know that they will do anything. And I'm not just talking about the Islamists. I'm not just talking about particular communities. Again, I'm talking about the enablers, the useful idiots, the chattering class. They will do anything. And even rape, the rape of children, they will put that second to their vision of a glorious utopian multicultural society that really doesn't exist, that has never existed, and is just getting worse and worse. And many people in this country cannot see a
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. We're going to try and squeeze in a couple of other seriously important stories going on today. Some new migration statistics that will turn your hair. I mean, they're shocking. 850,000 migrants have been given long-term visas over the last year. 850,000, that's legal. So these are people waiting to, they've come 850,000. So on this madness goes. And we need to talk about Mike Amesbury, don't we? The thug former Labour MP, got kicked out of the parliamentary party anyway. He's the guy who beat up one of his constituents, was sentenced to 10 weeks in jail. Well, he's successfully appealed, and a judge has now suspended that sentence. Which a lot of people are saying two-tier justice. So you can beat the hell out of someone really badly. We'll show you the video lately, but you better not write hurty words on Facebook or you get 3 years. Two-tier justice, absolute disgrace. The people of Runcorn, who he represents, though, still have the right to get up what they call a recall petition, which would trigger a by-election, which many people believe that despite Labour's massive majority there, Reform they could maybe win that. So interesting times. We'll try to get to that story, but we must concentrate, of course, on events in Washington. We're waiting for this the full press conference. Everything's always late in politics, isn't it? It's never on time. It's supposed to be at 7 o'clock. They're still sitting in the Oval Office at 7 o'clock. Anyway, let's just play this first before we get to another discussion point I want to bring up with you, Greg. This is the moment. This is the money shot that Starmer had clearly meticulously planned, handing the Donald an invitation for a state visit to meet the king and the royals and all those castles and all that. He loves that, old Trump. Here it is.
It is my pleasure to bring from His Majesty the King a letter. He sends his best wishes and his regards, of course, but he also asked me to bear this letter and bring it to you. So can I present the letter from the King to you?
Thank you very much. Am I supposed to read it right now?
Yeah, please do.
I will do.
I've got to tell him what your reaction is, so I need to know.
He is a great gentleman. A great, great gentleman. That is really nice. I must make sure his signature's on that. Otherwise, it's not quite as meaningful. It is, and that's quite a signature, isn't it? Beautiful. He's a beautiful man, a wonderful man, and we appreciate it. I've known him, gotten to know him very well, actually.
Yeah.
First term and now second term. Perhaps you'd like to say what that very important paragraph...
Yes, so this is a letter from His Majesty the King. It's an invitation for a second state visit. This is really special. This has never happened before. This is unprecedented. And I think that just symbolises the strength of the relationship between us. So this is a very special letter. I think the last state visit was a tremendous success.
It was.
His Majesty the King wants to make this even better than that. So this is truly historic, an unprecidented second state visit. He wants to talk that through with you.
And that says at Windsor. That's really something.
That's a bit excruciating, isn't it? God, I don't know what to say. I think I feel sick. We've got a sick bucket at all, but seriously. But obviously, a good ruse, and Trump will be flattered by that. He loves Britain, he loves the royals and all that. So an inevitable thing for Starmer to do, but he didn't do it very well. He never does anything very well, does he? What I wanted to ask you, Greg, was this. Now, the backdrop to these talks, such as they are, between Starmer and Trump, is this. Trump demanding of the European leaders, including Britain, the NATO countries, that you start paying a lot more of your way when it comes to defence. That, France and Germany, I think, are less than 2% of their GDP. They're supposed to pay 5%. We were 2.3%. Now, Britain, or the Labour government this week, have been making this huge song and dance. Oh, we've really stepped up to the plate. The president said we've got to pay 5% of our gross domestic product towards defence. 5%. And how? These are difficult times. So what we've done is we've set up a roadmap in order to increase from 2.3% to 2.5% by 2027. Now, I heard 2 nights ago that already Donald Trump is incredibly unimpressed by that.
Right.
And he might be able to point out when Keir goes, oh, we've stepped up to the plate, we've done what you said. He might be able to say, wait a minute, mate, you said that it's going to take you 2 years to get to half of what I demanded.
Right.
I don't think that Trump is loving this. Keir has gone there, Starmer has gone there as if, yeah, right, we've done our side of the bargain. No, he hasn't.
Yeah, and it's completely inadequate.
Yeah.
And I think anybody in the military, here in the MOD, would argue that that's completely inadequate and not enough. But, and it's just a rounding error in many ways. And also consider, he's also proposed to pay Mauritius a good chunk of money that will come out of that military budget. So now that might be worked out if Trump rejects
Trump's going to veto.
Yeah, he should, and I hope he does.
We all hope
yeah,
it.
of course. On both sides.
David Lammy, the Foreign Secretary yesterday, and he's over there as well. He wasn't even allowed to go in the official car.
He's at the kids' table.
Yeah. So he came trotting up on foot afterwards. It's probably a good idea. Keep Lammy away from it. We'll never achieve anything if he's involved. But he did say yesterday. Actually, the British press seem to forget this. I always had it on board. This was in place for the last couple of months before Trump even came to power during the interregnum, when he was he'd won the election, but waiting to come into the White House and actually take the reins. It had, but Keir Starmer, in a rare moment of clever diplomacy, said we won't do anything without getting America's agreement. So what Lammy said yesterday wasn't new. But he reiterated that President Trump, America, if you like, has the veto on this deal, this ludicrous, bizarre, baffling deal that Britain seems to want to do on the Chagos Islands, the very strategic Chagos Islands. Diego Garcia, one of this archipelago of islands, has got this airstrip that's used by America a lot and us, and basically America and Britain, the West, we patrol. We have a look at China, we look at the Middle East from there. It's incredibly strategic. For some reason, Keir Starmer wants to give Mauritius something like, I think it works out about 10 billion pounds.
It's insane. I'm surprised
to take it off. Why?
I'm surprised he's waited this long. I mean, I'm sure he'll reject it or veto it, but it's completely obscene. Obviously, and
it's also confusing.
And this started with the Tories, believe it or not.
I know. That was James Cleverly. I don't know why he started the ball rolling, but I can't believe that a Tory government would have carried on with this process. But unless you view this through the prism of a bunch of stupid, liberal, Guardian-reading North London lawyers, a la Keir Starmer and Richard Hermer, who's our Attorney General, who somehow or other, they just want to get rid of our colonial influence. There's no reason for this whatsoever. Mauritius is 1,300 miles away, 1,300 miles from these islands. It has never once had sovereign control of those islands. So we're not giving them back to Mauritius. We're giving them to Mauritius. And Mauritius, by the way, great friends with China, so there's another big mistake. Mauritius basically said, well, it's all right, and then, but they said, well, what's in it for us? Oh, we'll give you billions and billions of pounds, but you've got to let us keep renting Diego Garcia. The only reason I think that Starmer and his stupid North London lawyer Guardian reading friends are trying to do this is because they believe they're breaking up the evil old British Empire. It's about destroying colonial guilt, which is insane.
Right, it's obscene, and Starmer's friend was on the ICJ. He was one of the people on the committee at the ICJ. And nobody, obviously, Trump doesn't care about the ICJ or the International Criminal. What is it? The International Criminal Justice Court or whatever.
International Court of Criminal Justice.
Thank you. It's just another multilateral institution that Trump definitely doesn't care about. So I hope he gets busy on this.
Yeah, I mean, I hope this comes up on their agenda, their private agenda at least. I would imagine, I mean, if any of the British press especially are worth their salt over there, when this press conference finally happens, half an hour late now, one of the questions must be to Donald Trump, well, the British Foreign Secretary says you've got power of veto over the Chagos Islands. What are you going to do?
I hope he says it right there.
I hope he says,
would be great.
We're not going to let it happen. Yeah. Exactly. That would be a great moment. Listen, we'll go to break again now. We're still waiting for this press conference in the White House. Keir Starmer and Donald Trump. Pure showbiz. So stick around and we'll be over there in the White House pretty damn soon.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with Greg Swenson, and we've got some breaking news on the BBC Gaza documentary. We'll bring you that in just a second. But while we wait for the details, this joke, we'll try and play this. Was it a joke? So Starmer's trying to say, oh, well, any peace deal has to be lasting, and, you know, we have to be very careful about all this. And Trump turned to him and said, do you want to take on Russia on your own? I mean, OK, that's a joke. Well, it's said in a joke form, right, but there's some serious intent behind that, isn't there?
Yeah, I think it just goes to the major point of the last few weeks of conversation about Ukraine coming out of the White House, is that this has to be a European responsibility. We've talked about it. I mentioned the economy is at 10 times the economy of Russia. It's completely obscene that they're intimidated by Russia. You win wars with economic growth, you know, and then you obviously have to spend a certain amount of your GDP. But if your GDP is anemic, then you can spend 30% like the Soviet Union did. But they were outgunned by the American economy.
Yeah.
And that's important to keep in mind. But I think the other point that we should, that it isn't discussed enough, just a little bit in the press this week, is the pivot toward China. And that's why people don't pay attention to the fact that we can't have Russia become, you know, a vassal state of China or the junior partner, as they would describe.
Trump wants to concentrate on China. This is the big worry. We'll come back to this in a second, Greg. This is the breaking news on the Gaza documentary. You know, all week this story's been going on. It's a documentary called Gaza, How to Survive a War Zone. The BBC neglected to inform its viewers of the nuance that it was narrated by the son of a Hamas official, a terrorist. But so this is the latest. The BBC has apologised for, and I quote, serious flaws in the making of a Gaza documentary, and said it has no plans to broadcast it again in its current form or return it to iPlayer. That's a spokesperson for the corporation. In its current form. Don't replay it in any form. Why can't they get anything right? Just say it's ditched, it's in the bin, we made a massive mistake. In its current form, we don't want that documentary in any form, OK? Did you see that these 500 lovies, including Gary Lineker and what's her name, Miriam Margolis, all the usual lefty, Juliet Stevenson, all the usual actor lefties, sort of said, oh, please return this important piece of journalism to the airwaves. It just proves that, you know, first of all, they don't know what journalism is. That was not journalism.
Right, it's
that was propaganda. That was propaganda. And by the way, this cannot be the end of this, because what we need to know, the budget, the BBC paid £400,000 for that, to make that documentary. Now that kid, the 13-year-old son of Hamas's deputy tunnel builder. Deputy agriculture minister. What agriculture have they got in Gaza?
Yeah, they seem to be exporting a ton of grain.
Yeah, those vast wheat fields.
Right.
Anyway, that kid, you know, first of all, the producers would have had to go to the father, the parents, of course. Can we use your kid? Yes, you can. Then it's money.
Right.
It's money.
How much they
So what has happened here, folks, and we need to know, this is why this cannot be the end of this issue, is how much of BBC licence fee payers' money ended up in the pockets of an illegal terrorist group, as in Hamas, because that is a serious scandal, all right?
Yeah, and look, it happened in the U.S. with Doge and Elon Musk uncovering all this money that was going to terrorist organizations or organizations that supported terrorism. And it's completely obscene that it's taxpayer money or in this case, license payer money that's going to this. And so, there's more to this story, and I hope it doesn't just die because they said they're putting it in the bin in its current form. Leaving themselves an out.
In its current form, I mean, what kind of form have you got in mind that would be acceptable? And by the way, it wasn't just that kid. One of the filmers, one of the cameramen used on that was a guy called Mr. Fofo. That's his nickname, and he's the guy who creates fake anti-Israel footage to make them look bad in the war. And he has this kid he uses in lots of his movies, you know, acting like he's been seriously injured and stuff. Well, this kid was also in this documentary. So there are actually two dubious children in this documentary, plus a dubious cameraman. The whole thing is a joke. And when they took it down, by the way, it was this time last week, all they'd done is apologise and then put a trigger on the top saying, oh, by the way, the star of the show is connected to Hamas. And when they finally, so we said, that's not good enough. Just like I'm saying that statement's not good enough. The following day, they finally took it down from the iPlayer and said, we've taken it down for due diligence. That would be the due diligence they should have shown before putting it on the telly.
Yeah, it'd be one thing if someone pulled the wool over their eyes and they didn't know or somehow came out, but they had to know. I mean, why else would they be dealing with these people? I don't think they can play dumb on this one.
No, definitely not. But let's get back to Trump and Starmer. I mean, away from the cameras, like now, I suspect that the narrative is not quite so friendly. I mean, even in that kind of jocular atmosphere, I think Trump was saying, you know, we're not going to help you with Ukraine.
Yeah, I could tell you one thing that's not going to happen. Trump changing his mind on this. Like, you know, he might say a few nice things. He might, you know, give a little love to Keir Starmer, and you know, maybe even concede on some things that are sociable, but not on this. I mean, if he thinks he's going to Washington to come back with some sort of commitment, I highly doubt it.
He's coming back with the square root of sod all. We all know
maybe an LNG deal, or maybe something on trade, but it's not going to be significant.
But with Trump, you know, how long will that last? You never know. I suspect, you see, Starmer's using this to bestride the world stage, to look, as he said, I'm the bridge between America and Europe. No, you're not. But I think he's going to achieve so little here that far from this improving his status in this country, it's going to make it worse. But here's Trump and Starmer talking about Ukraine.
If they need help, I'll always be with the British, okay? I'll always be with them. But they don't need help. You look at their career, you have done very well over the years, haven't you?
We have. I'm very proud of our country. And but we've also always been backing each other up between our two countries. That is why this is the greatest alliance for prosperity and security I think the world has ever seen. Whenever necessary, we've absolutely backed each other up, and that's at the core.
Could you take on Russia by yourselves?
Well...
Yeah, I mean, that was very pointed, wasn't it? Very pointed. And Trump has already made it clear, because Starmer rather hastily has already said, we'll put British boots on the ground in Ukraine to keep the peace. I think I'm right in saying that no other European nation has joined him in that pledge. And he has. We know that he's asked Trump to back him up on that, but Trump said no. America will not put boots on the ground.
No, that's never going to happen.
And Trump has also, or rather Starmer, that's on the front of the Times today, I think, has said, well, if you won't put boots on the ground, can you give us other military help, particularly air cover? And I don't think that's forthcoming either.
No, and if it is, he's not going to grant that today or in the next few days. I mean, there might be some long-term strategy, but I think President Trump, if he were to grant that, he would want to see support from the rest of the Europeans. I mean, there's no way that it's going to be the UK and the US defending Ukraine. That's just not going to happen. And it should be the responsibility of the rest of the continent. Again, it goes back to pivoting to China, and we'll have the UK's back in that area as well, you know. So it's not like we're abandoning, or the U.S. is abandoning anybody. It's just this is the right thing to do, the right time.
So there's a different dynamic now.
Yeah.
Trump has established a very different
That's right.
dynamic. You know, America first. You guys, you're the Europeans. You deal with the European problems. Now, I think he'll be a little bit more favourably inclined towards Britain, obviously,
Yeah, of course.
for the reasons we just heard. But I mean, you know, he wouldn't urinate on the EU if it was on fire in the gutter, would he?
And look, you know, he's definitely positioning right now, but you also can't turn the clock back. We can't go back to February of 2022. You know, the conditions are different, and you know, you've got Zelensky running into real headwinds politically in Ukraine. You don't have the support, that, you know, overwhelming support for him that you saw at the beginning of the war. So Trump knows that. He knows that this is not, you know, again, this is not February of 22.
Well, on the plus side, I mean, Trump has said that he doesn't believe that, you know, with a proper peace deal, that Putin will advance into other countries. Right. And I suspect there's something in that, because I don't think he's got the capabilities to do it in terms of, as you said earlier, the Russian economy. The Russian economy is smaller than Italy's.
That's right.
The only reason Russia's a kind of weird sort of superpower is it spends like about 99% of its budget on defense. No, that's an exaggeration, but
a lot.
It's like up towards 7%.
Yeah. And
the last time Britain, for example, paid 7% on its GDP on defence was the 1950s.
Wow.
So the reason, I mean, Russia has awesome military power because it spends such a massive amount of its general budget on weaponry, particularly nuclear weapons. Let's talk about this rare earth deal, the mineral deal. I mean, I can only say, so Zelensky will be there tomorrow, Friday. Right, the dictator Zelensky, which just proves this is Trump land, isn't it? This time last week, he's a dictator. He's terrible. He's terrible. Tomorrow, trust me, he'll be a great guy. What a guy, you know. So Zelensky will be there tomorrow, and they'll sign this deal, won't they? Which, you know, I hear could put America into the black in terms of they've given $350 billion to Ukraine since the beginning of the war, but this deal could be worth a lot more than that. But don't you think then that kind of makes Ukraine quite safe, because Trump isn't going to allow Russia to go anywhere near his minerals?
I mean, this is classic President Trump. You know,
everything's a real estate deal.
Yeah, he wants to do business. And look what he did in the Middle East with the Abraham Accords. He knew that doing business, you know, signing the Abraham Accords was such a positive move, because it was using economic interests over boots on the ground or military activities. So this is brilliant, and it's a win-win. This is not a zero-sum game. It's a win-win.
Yeah.
The Americans will help the Ukrainians develop their rare earth elements and other critical minerals. It's important for Ukraine. They need capital. They need American ingenuity in their country. And then the Americans, we need rare earth elements and critical minerals. We, the U.S., as well as Western Europe, are completely dependent on China for those minerals. And that's really dangerous. You know, 80% of the rare earth elements are mined in China. 90% of the world's rare earth elements are processed in China. So that has to change. So this is a really interesting strategic move. Again, going back to China, we don't want to have the dependency on China. You just saw, you know, another additional 10%, I think, tariffs slapped on the Chinese today. So this is important for U.S. interests, but it's win-win. It's good for Ukraine.
Yes, it is. I gather, I mean, basically we're talking mainly, I think, about titanium and lithium.
Yeah.
And I gather it's going to cost quite a lot to get at these minerals.
It's a 10-year project, absolutely. I mean, it takes years. The last maps were like Soviet-era maps, but that's nothing changes underground. You know, these elements have been there for 1 million years. So, you know, I don't think the fact that it hasn't been properly mapped in generations, I don't think that's a big deal. They're still there, and you've seen the same thing in Kazakhstan, you know, with Soviet-era maps. It just needs to be developed, and that takes a lot of capital and a lot of smarts, and that's two things the Americans have.
Yeah, and I mean, in what way? I mean, presumably Trump is calculating that certainly whatever Putin does next, if there's a peace deal, his next move won't be to go back into Ukraine.
Yeah. I mean, look, you can't trust Putin. We all know that.
Yeah.
So it's trust but verify, or maybe in this case, don't trust and still verify. But everybody, I think smart people want the killing to stop. So, you know, this is not going to be perfect. There has to be concessions on both sides. And then we have to really, you know, keep after Putin. I think Trump can do that. Remember, Trump's the one who had 300 Russian mercenaries killed in Syria at his command.
Yeah.
Trump's the one who sent Javelin missiles to Kyiv back in 2017, and Trump's the one who put sanctions on Nord Stream 2. And the Germans were all angry about it because they were completely dependent on Russian energy. But this was, you know, and then of course Biden comes in and takes the sanctions off of Nord Stream 2. I mean, to just show how idiotic he was. But look, President Trump is not a Putin sympathizer. He just wants to end this war, and that's important.
Well, I don't know if we're going to have time for calls anytime soon, but we might, considering this press conference doesn't seem to be materialising. But it will soon, I'm sure. It's politics. They're always late, always late. Yeah, I'm just watching the TV. PM and Trump news conference shortly. Yeah, great. That's accurate, isn't it?
Don't hold your breath.
That pins it down, doesn't it? But what do you all feel? Let me know what you think. Give us a call, 0344 499 1000. Do you agree with the peace process that Donald Trump is definitely in the process of forcing through? Zelensky arrives tomorrow. Now, I never thought it wouldn't make any sense for just America and Russia to thrash out a deal, because if you don't have the agreement of Ukraine, you don't have a peace deal. So this time last week he was calling Zelensky terrible and a dictator. Tomorrow, trust me, he'll be all over. Great guy, yeah, what a guy, you know. He'll get Zelensky to the table. Do you think, do you approve of this process? Is Donald Trump doing the right thing? Or is it, in your opinion, appeasing a tyrant like Putin? And also, what do you think Keir Starmer will achieve? You know, he's handed an invitation for a state visit, to, you know, giving him a letter from the king and all that. Above and beyond that, do you think Keir Starmer can persuade Donald Trump, I don't know, to commit more towards maintaining peace in Ukraine, to helping Europe more, and maybe, well, we're talking, I think he's now talking in terms of tariffs on EU goods, and you know, obviously we're going to try and avoid that for Britain, but you never know. So what do you think Starmer will achieve? 0344 499 1000. We'll go to break now and come back in just a little while.
UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with Greg Swenson and waiting patiently for this press conference. We are told it's going to start shortly, so that really narrows it down, doesn't it? It's supposed to start at 7. In politics, nothing ever happens on time. But fairly soon, they should both be standing behind a podium. We've seen some of their discourse already in a kind of informal Oval Office setting. I noticed, Greg, by the way, no fire on today. They usually have the fire behind them, but what do you think that's indicating?
Maybe the net zero fanatics got a hold of President Trump and convinced him that it was burning wood was bad.
Did you see that speech? Didn't he make a speech at his brother's wedding or something? And he was talking about they came to him. The military came to him and they said, "We got these electric tanks." And he said, and we're working on electric planes. And he said, let me get it straight. So we're going to go in with these tanks. We're going to blow the hell out of them. And then we're going to fly these planes over. And we're going to drop bombs on them. But at least the tanks and the planes will be good for the environment. He goes, who cares?
Yeah. That's great.
He's right, though.
I know. It's completely insane.
It is this madness that he's cutting through, isn't it? It's great to see.
It really is. It's liberating.
Yeah.
It's completely liberating.
And are you surprised at the speed of this? I mean, it's a revolution, isn't it?
Look, we knew there was going to be big change coming, but not like this. This is so much more aggressive and so much faster than anybody expected. He telegraphed it. I mean, he hasn't done anything.
That's right. People say it's terrible what he's doing. The answer is, well, what's he doing that he didn't say he was going to do?
But
dramatically,
speed, yes. I mean, it's really amazing so far. And even though if Trump's polling at 50 to 52, okay, that's his high. But the things he's doing are polling in the 60s and 70s. That's what's really incredible about it. And let's face it, he's never going to poll at 55 or 60. But just the fact that what he's doing, that's the reason people voted for him. So even Democrats like some of the things he's doing.
Well, I'm hoping we'll be able to squeeze in this story about our migrant crisis today. It's not so much coming across illegally, but 850,000 long-term visas were given to asylum seekers and to migrants. Not asylum seekers, actually migrants, people coming here legally. 850,000 over the past year, nearly 1 million. I mean, it's mad, isn't it? So we've got that going on. That is legal, I should stress. But I heard yesterday that in terms of illegal migrants coming across the southern border, he stopped 98% of them.
Absolutely, shut down. I mean, it's amazing how fast it's worked. And that's why people voted for him. And this is what the voters want. The mass deportations are polling at 60. Which I never would have guessed. And so, this is a great moment for just the differentiation between Trump and Biden. Again, another reason he was elected. But, I mean, it proves just how criminal the Biden administration was. They weren't just inefficient or mismanaging. They actually wanted illegal migrants.
Yeah,
they
just like our lot, just like Starmer, Starmer.
Sure.
And Starmer talking about his pride in our free speech.
Unless it's quote unquote harmful content that's decided by some bureaucrat.
Yeah, unless you're writing hurty words on Facebook. Then you go to jail for exercising your right to free speech. This guy is the enemy of free speech because he's a socialist. Unbelievable. And when that speech the other week, we talked about this the other day, didn't we? By J.D. Vance to those shocked EU leaders. Starmer seems to think it didn't involve Britain. Well, actually, in the middle of it, that speech was beautifully succinct. It was powerful. 20 minutes. Gone. The power of economy there. Always keep it short, keep it to the point, which is what he did in a 20-minute speech, lambasting the European leaders for their abandoning of freedom of speech and freedom of expression. 4 minutes of it was attacking Britain.
Right.
So Keir Starmer, like imagining that he wasn't part of this, he was at the heart of it.
Yeah, I mean, he had to sort of play it cool in the clip that we showed earlier. I mean, you know, he couldn't admit that he's against free speech. That wouldn't have been, you know, it wouldn't have been sociable with the president and J.D. Vance right there. So he just kind of dodged it by saying that we've always had free speech, which to a certain degree is true historically, but just not in the last, whatever it is, five years or 15 years. You know, I mean, J.D. Vance rightly called out Great Britain. I'm glad that he said, when he made that reference, he referred to the UK as our good friends.
So
he
did
not,
that.
you know, he wasn't trying to be, you know, to pick on the UK, but it's something that is really outrageous. That, you know, and I think, I don't know if any of these things will come up, but the free speech thing hopefully will come up. The, you know, Keir Starmer committing to the, you know, the International Criminal Court warrants, arrest warrant on Benjamin Netanyahu.
Yeah.
He said he'd enforce it. I hope that comes up. Maybe that should come up privately. But there's a long list of things that he's done that are just, you know, they talk about threat to democracy during the campaign. You know, these are things that are as J.D. Vance pointed out 2 weeks ago tomorrow, that, you know, these are real threats to democracy, what they're doing here in Western Europe.
And do you know when we started to part company with America in terms of freedom of expression and freedom of speech, it goes back to 1998 and Tony Blair, when he brought in the hate crime laws, the first laws that made in this country which you might say potentially illegal. Until then, you couldn't actually say anything that was illegal. You could, because of freedom of speech, you could say racist stuff. I'm not encouraging it, folks, but until 1998, you were allowed to say anything in this country, and that was nothing you could say could be against the law, except for kill Greg Swenson or something like that. And incitement to violence, that would be against the law, but everything else. He brings in the hate crime laws, and now the hate crime laws, every day and in every way, suppress our freedom of speech. And Keir Starmer, of course, being a socialist, and all of his left-wing cabinet, they're all over the hate crime laws. They love them.
They love that. And going back to Tony Blair again, the Gender Recognition Act, you know, that's a complete disaster. President Trump, we had the similar laws in the U.S. that President Biden put into place, and on day one, you saw it in his inauguration speech, but then on day one, and you know, signing the executive orders, he just did away with all of that, that garbage in the government, in the military. It's fantastic.
Yeah, so there's from now on by law, there's only two genders in America.
Exactly.
Well, actually, Donald, there's only two genders everywhere in the world, but you're the only one to enshrine it in law, and good for you. Oh, I've got a bone to pick with the president right now, because they are saying that his whole ethos is this: we're gonna run the government like an efficient business. Like the way he runs his businesses. Efficient businesses, Donald, aren't 1 hour late for anything, are they?
I'm sure it's not his fault. I'm sure it's
probably
Starmer or was late or who knows. But
Greg, listen, you're going to go off now, but hopefully you can join us a bit later when this press conference actually starts, because we need to get your input. It will happen in just a while. We're going to go to the news, I think, in just a little while, in 30 seconds or so. When we come back, I'll be joined by Dr. René Hunderkamp, and we're still waiting for this press conference, so stick around, folks. It's going to happen, I promise. I can feel it. I can feel that it's going to happen. So stay exactly where you are. Greg will be back later. René Hunderkamp next.
Donald Trump has accepted the King's invitation of a rare second state visit to the UK. Sir Keir Starmer handed the US President a letter in the White House before official meetings where Ukraine will be discussed. The US President's already said security guarantees against further aggression should come from Europe in the event of a peace deal. But Republican official Angie Wong says there are signs Washington might join in order to secure a minerals deal.
I'm hearing rumours now that there could be talks of the US military going in to helping the European Union to secure those borders going forward. And that's a huge commitment for the US.
Volodymyr Zelensky's heading to Washington tomorrow. Controversial social media influencer Andrew Tate and his brother Tristan have arrived in Florida after a travel ban was lifted, and they've had assets including properties and cars returned. They denied charges in Romania of human trafficking and also face allegations in the UK. Senior Tory Robert Jenrick's among those calling for the Tate brothers to now face the UK's criminal justice system. Police in New Mexico have revealed Oscar-winning actor Gene Hackman and his wife were found in different rooms and had been dead for some time. His daughter believes carbon monoxide poisoning's to blame. MP Mike Amesbury's repeatedly refused to say whether or not he'll quit after walking free from prison for assault. He challenged his 10-week jail term on appeal. And Ryanair's chief executive says a second runway at Gatwick Airport would not immediately boost the economy. Eddie Wilson believes there's already spare capacity and says the best way to support growth would be by cutting air passenger duty. The press conference between the US President and Sir Keir Starmer should start in the next half an hour. That's the latest. I'm Laura Cook.
Talk, news, update. Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Welcome back. We are kind of playing this by ear, obviously. We're waiting for this live press conference in Washington. We saw Keir Starmer, that's our Prime Minister, I think. That's what he likes to think he is anyway. Our Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, and Donald Trump, of course, informally chatting in the Oval Office with the press there. So a few questions being thrown at them. Some quite telling moments, I thought. But at 7 o'clock, 7 p.m. our time, that I think would be 2 p.m. in Washington, they were supposed to start the formal press conference, which will be, I think, them standing behind podiums like they do, lecterns or whatever you call them. And anyway, here we are more than an hour later and it hasn't started. So we're still waiting for that. So into the studio. While Greg goes off to attend to other business. He may return later. Warm welcome to Dr. Renee Hunderkamp. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you.
Right, well, we don't need you in a medical capacity tonight. No. We do need you in your other capacity as a political commentator. A very good one you are too. You appear a lot on Talk and you're very active on social media and have a massive following. So your thoughts are very valuable. I want to talk about a couple of domestic stories. Actually, why don't we do that now?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Now, let's talk first about these shocking figures. A record number of legal visas, long-term visas, have been handed out to foreigners who come here over the last year. 850,000. So that's a kind of flashy way of saying we have allowed 850,000 migrants to live here legally over the last year, to come here legally. This is out of control, isn't it?
It's out of control. Nobody wants to talk about it in the powers that be. They try and pretend that it's good for us. And what they're not actually saying is this is 850,000 people who all need somewhere to live. They need healthcare, they need dentistry, they need schools. And it's a disgrace that we have got pensioners in their homes freezing to death. We've got people who can't put food on the table. Every single one of our bills and taxes is going up. And yet we've got this influx of people adding to the burden on an already failing infrastructure.
Yeah, and Nigel Farage has been active on social media as he's wont to be, and you know, so 850,000 foreigners came here and were given long-term visas to stay here. So, as I say, that's a nice way of saying we let in 850,000 migrants last year and they were all allowed to stay. So they're not illegal migrants, they're not cross-channel small boaters or anything like that. These are legal. 850,000. Best part of 1 million.
And I guarantee, Kevin, they're not doctors and scientists and engineers.
They say
they're really not.
And I guarantee you that the vast, vast majority of them are not women and are not children. They're mostly young men. They're not fleeing war and torture. They are economic migrants. But of course, you don't have to flee war and torture if you come here legally. So we allowed over the last 12 months 850,000 foreigners to come and live here. These are not illegal migrants, these are legal. There are, I think, it's like, are we like 70 million people living now, or is it more? This country's full, and yet these politicians, this isn't just Starmer and his useless gang, this is the Tories before, are just letting, I mean, over the last few years, millions of more people to come and live here. It's mad.
It is, and the staggering thing about it is that many of these visas are for family to accompany either workers or PhD students or other students, but they somehow have to bring their 6 members of their family with them. You know, we are a laughing stock. We are an open door country. We're an island with no borders, and yet we should be able to do it really easily as an island.
Yeah, and you know, you're a GP, you have to deal with the NHS. I mean, the NHS is one of our facilities that is being overwhelmed by this. Our infrastructure, the NHS is a very important part of our national infrastructure. When you talk about infrastructure, you talk about housing, you talk about transport, you talk about your health service, and they're being overwhelmed. You know that. You know that.
Of course, and a lot of these people have got complex health conditions or they've never had health care, so they come here and they think, whoopee, let's get to the doctor, let's start sorting out all of the many problems that I either couldn't afford or couldn't access in my home country.
Get to see your GP. Good luck with that. Let me know what you think about this while we wait. I mean, this is a very important. We'd have done this very big normally if we weren't waiting for this press conference in. Looks like they're actually taking their seats in a minute. But let me know what you think about that. It has just been revealed today. 850,000 legal migrants were allowed into this country. They're allowed to live here over the past 12 months. And we know that in the past few years, we've had amounts like 1,100,000 were allowed. Some of these 850,000 will probably go back to their own countries, but I guarantee you that will mean that will add up to another 500,000, 600,000 people living here forever. So over the past decade or so, they've been coming in at this kind of rate. It's grotesque.
It's unsustainable.
Yeah, it's mad. It's just bizarre. And these politicians let this happen because they say, oh, well, it's good for the economy. No, it's not. That's rubbish, because a lot of these migrants cost us a lot of money.
Well, the evidence shows us now that it isn't, and the majority cost.
Yeah. I think this press conference looks very close to happening. The moment we do, we'll go over there. Just very, very quickly, Mike Amesbury, that thug, the former Labour MP, he was getting 10 weeks in jail, but he appealed. Two-tier justice, folks. It has been turned into a suspended sentence, and that means that there will not be a by-election, another election to replace him in Runcorn, where he represents, and even the people of Runcorn cannot petition for a recall, as they call it, because his sentence is now not severe enough. He doesn't even have to quit. And from what I can see of this guy, he'll dig his heels in.
Totally. But there is one way that he can actually get a recall triggered, and that is if the Standards Committee in the House give him a suspension from the House of 10 sitting days or more.
Yeah. So the reason he would have been subjected to a petition was because of his prison sentence would have kept him out of the House for 10 sitting days. Now he won't be kept out of the House.
Unless they suspend him.
But look, this is an MP. You've seen the footage, we'll play it to you later. Raining punches down, and really severe. As the judge said, you could have killed him. He gets nothing, basically. He gets a suspended sentence and can carry on being an MP, £91,000 a year. Would have even been paid if he went to prison. How bizarre is that? Carry on getting his 91 grand a year. Meanwhile, there's, I think there's at least 3 women. There's about 10 people, 5, 6, 7, 8, I can't remember the exact number. There's a fair few people doing sentences of 1 year, 2 years, 3 years for writing hurty words on Facebook during the summer riots. That, folks, is two-tier justice. Absolute disgrace.
Yeah, don't forget Mr. Lynch, who went to prison for shouting at a police horse, killed himself. You know, this is a disgrace. It really is. These are our elected representatives. I was thinking about it this afternoon, Kev. If I, as a doctor, met one of my patients out one night and decided to actually attack them, I would lose my licence to practice. Guaranteed.
Yeah, no, exactly. And so this MP, who beat the hell out of a constituent on film on a drunken night out, it looks as if he's going to dig his heels in, carry on being the representative of the poor, unfortunate people of Runcorn, and basically get away scot-free. Just return to... and he's a violent thug. I mean... You know, and of course, you know, I smell a rat here because the Labour government didn't want a by-election because they would possibly lose it. And although there's a massive Labour majority, because of the unpopularity of this Labour government and the unpopularity of this bloke, Mike Amesbury now, there's a fair chance reform could have nicked that constituency.
You know when we'll know that there's two-tier policing is when the Standards Committee give him a 9-day suspension. That's when we'll really know.
Yeah. Well, if he gets more than... See, if that, as Renee says, so he goes to the Standards Committee, if they give him an 11-day suspension...
Recall petition.
Then he can be recalled, and let's hope he was. Once there's a chance of a recall petition, that will happen because all the other parties will get together and make sure that it happens. Because even if Labour managed to scrape through, they've got a huge majority in this. It's 25,000 or something. Yeah. But that sort of majority can be overturned. Ask Liz Truss. Even if they managed to just about cling on to it, it will be very embarrassing for them because that 25,000 majority will go down to something very, very minor. So,
and of course, every time Reform take another step forward, even if they just take the majority down to like a couple of thousand, it gives people out there who are unsure whether or not Reform were a party worth backing. It just gives it more momentum and more momentum.
Yeah, it does. So, two-tier policing, two-tier justice this was, two-tier justice. Guy gets 10 weeks, 3 days later, turns up in handcuffs. Judge says, oh, well, that was a bit harsh. So we'll suspend your sentence. So now he is not necessarily, he won't have to have a by-election. And you suspect, don't you, that maybe there might be some dark forces at play there because this turn of events, this outcome for Mike Amesbury is very advantageous for the Labour government, right?
Totally. They don't want this. I mean, look, the Attorney General could step in and say, actually, I think that sentence is too lenient. I'm prepared to bet that they won't do that.
Oh, I'll bet they won't.
But, you know, what message does this give to people out there? What message does it give that an MP can land so many blows so violently on a constituency? He could have killed him. Enough people die every year from one punch.
Yeah. I mean, he was really punching him. Here's a message from Ben. My wife is a legal migrant. She's contributing in the top 1% of taxpayers. Know the feeling. Do you want her to go home? I'm as angry as the next person about illegal immigration, but I'm with Farage. We need the best of the best. Great show. Well, Ben, that's what I'm saying, is it? What I'm saying is that 850,000 legal migrants allowed in 1 year.
Who are not doctors and engineers and top 1%.
Respect to your wife, but there's an irrelevant argument. What we're talking about is this enormous number. And, you know, I agree with you, Ben. I think the best of the best should be allowed to stay in. Nigel Farage even says that. We'll take doctors and we'll take engineers. We'll take people at the top of their game. But these 850,000 legal migrants, they're not doctors. They're not engineers. They're anybody, aren't they?
They're people desperate for a better life, and I have no issue with that. Of course you would want to do that.
I sort of do.
Well, no, I think we would all want it, Kevin. If we were them, we would want a better life. But I'm sorry, I can't afford to give it to them.
But I don't, you know, people say, well, you can't blame them for wanting to seeking a better life. Well, I sort of can. I mean, I don't blame them for the impulse, but this entitled attitude that I'm seeking a better life, so as far as I'm concerned, it's all right for me to completely break all of Britain's laws and demand to stay. I don't have any sympathy with that attitude.
You would do the same, would you not?
No, not necessarily.
If I was trying to get my family to a better life, I would do it, but that doesn't mean I want it to happen.
I still think they're infuriatingly entitled in their attitude.
Well, that's a current day
issue, I'm not
isn't it?
going to cut them any slack. You know, you guys say, I'm living a better life, so I'm going to break a load of laws.
But the ones on the visas aren't breaking any laws, are they?
They're not. No, that's true.
850,000 of them.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah. Ludicrous situation. Let's. We should take a phone call. Should we take a call or something? Well, we've got lots of calls coming in, and as I say, what we're doing here is killing time, to be honest with you. But I'd love to hear from you all. Like Keir Starmer, don't I? He loves waving bits. Now, everybody, I'm Ukraine. I've got a Ukraine. We've got a peace deal, a lasting peace. Anyway, I'd love to hear from you, by all means, talk about what's going in Washington, Ukraine. Will Starmer achieve anything? What do you think Donald Trump really thinks about Starmer? I think he just thinks he's a woke, weak pipsqueak, like he does the rest of the EU leaders. Let me know about that by all means. But two other very big stories that we should be talking about. Let me know what you think about the fact that new figures reveal 850,000 legal migrants allowed into the country over the last year. That's notwithstanding the 60,000 or so who came in illegally. 850,000. Every year this happens. We've had amounts, I can't remember what last year was, but I think it was 2 years ago, it was 1,100,000. So this vast invasion of legal migrants continues apace. What do you think? 0344 499 1000. And oh my God, Mike Amesbury, the MP for Runcorn, looks like he'll hang on to his seat. That's a disgrace. Having successfully appealed against his 10-week prison sentence.
How did he get his appeal so quickly?
Well, you know, probably something to do with the same kind of speed that all those rioters up in Southport ended up in court in about 24 hours flat. The government is at work here. These judges aren't doing this independently. They're doing what they're told. Trust me. Trust me. Your thoughts on all of that, folks? 0344 499 1000. Well, let's go to Michelle in Middlesex. Hello, Michelle.
Hello, Kevin.
Hello, Michelle.
Are you enjoying? How are you enjoying Mr. It's a comedy film. It's called Mr. Starmer Goes to Washington.
Oh, don't really annoy me. I've been watching it and I'm watching it, and it makes me so angry.
I'll tell you what's making me angry, Michelle, is that it hasn't bloody started.
No, but I was watching it earlier, and the man sat there and he said to Donald Trump, "We have free speech in this country."
Well, we do for some people, Michelle.
Yeah. Unless you write nasty, hurty words on Facebook, then you go to prison.
Makes me so angry. What can I? I'm really going to swear now.
Well, be slightly careful. You can say bloody. That's the most I'm going to allow you.
I was told I wasn't allowed to say that the other day.
Yeah, well, you know, I'm not one to talk. So go on, Michelle. What were you saying?
No, well, that's it. I just want to tell Keir Starmer to.
To do one. How about that?
Yeah,
but you've been watching it there in the White House, have you? It's pretty excruciating, isn't it? It's excruciating.
Yeah. I watch talkTV every day. You're brilliant. And but when I saw that, I was sitting here and I thought, I've got to phone up and say something, because he said there is free speech.
There just isn't, is there? I mean, and it's his type. He's these socialists like him. They're the people who are killing it. And that's what J.D. Vance was talking about in Munich a couple of weeks ago. You people in Britain are killing freedom of speech and freedom of expression.
Exactly.
What he forgot to add, you see, what he forgot to add to the end of that was there's free speech in Britain if we like what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah. And,
well done, yeah, that's good.
So you know what, Michelle, Middlesex, have you got Labour councillors? If you complain about Labour councillors on social media, on Instagram or Facebook or something, chances are the police will come round to have a word with you. I mean, non-crime hate incidents add up to an absolute disgraceful assault on freedom of speech, right?
Exactly. Well, I'm going to have a word with Ruth Cadbury, because she's our Labour councillor.
Oh, really? All right. Well, good luck with that.
You know what I think, Kev? One day the prisons will be full of really interesting people, because it'll just be us lot.
Anyway, Michelle, thanks very much for an excellent call, and I'll see you in prison, all right? Michelle there in Middlesex. This is Simon. Is Simon on the line? Have we got Simon there? Are you there, Simon? Yes. Hello, Simon. Simon.
Yeah, I just wanted to see the spectacle, really, of reporters asking about the Chagos Islands, but asking the president first.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to happen, hasn't it, Simon? If these journalists, particularly the British ones, the American journalists probably never heard of the Chagos Islands, like the rest of us, till about 2 months ago. But if these British journalists are worth their salt, they've got to say President Trump, the Foreign Secretary, David Lammy, yesterday said that you have veto over whether or not Britain gives the Chagos Islands to Mauritius. What will your decision be? That's the question, isn't it, Simon?
Well, yeah, and I heard that Lammy actually beat Pinson and Redgrave for rowing for the shore in the time trials.
I'll tell you what. Yes, are you glued to the TV? Are you waiting for this press conference?
Yeah. I mean, like every question, you ask about DEI, Mr. President first. Yeah. Ask about sexes in our society, Mr. President first, because it leaves Starmer no room for manoeuvre. I would come back.
I agree with you. What I would do is I'd run through. If I was a reporter, and I've been in these kind of press conferences, I would run through all the charges that J.D. Vance made against Britain in that brilliant speech in Munich a couple of weeks ago, arresting the guy who was praying near an abortion clinic and all that. I'd run through all of those and say, in view of all that, President Trump, are you really that close to Sir Keir Starmer? He presided over all of this. It'd be a good question, wouldn't it?
Mr. President, what advice would you give Great Britain for making our energy a lot more affordable? That sort of stuff.
What advice would you give Britain about fracking? Exactly right. Exactly. Everything Starmer stands for, Donald Trump doesn't.
Exactly.
Those two are not on the same planet, let alone on the same plane. So, Simon, look, there seems to be some activity, but the main players aren't there yet. But I'll leave you to watch the telly and enjoy the show. Should be quite a show when it finally starts. Nothing like a long wait. Simon, thanks for a good call. Simon in Reading there.
Do you know, I was contacted today by, do you remember Tristan, who calls us, who's blind?
Oh, yeah.
So he contacted me today to say that he used one of our discussions to switch his snacks from crisps to nuts, and he's lost a stone.
Oh, wow, really?
He's got a way to go, but he says...
Well, we better get him on normally. This should be called Dr. Renee, but Dr. Renee is operating in her political commentator capacity. She does do this a lot anyway, so...
So do you know what I was thinking about this today? And you just touched on it. You've got Starmer sitting on one side in an economy that's failing, in a high tax environment where nothing is growing, and going for the net zero and everything else. You've got Trump, who believes in the complete opposite to everything that this Labour government are going for. And he has an economy that looks like it's going to go crazy. People are happy, and he's surrounded by politicians who support him, and he's not up against major, you know, hurdles. They actually are the antithesis to each other.
Yeah, I know. They are, as I just said, they are literally, well, no, that's, I hate people say that. They are not on the same planet. They're not literally not on the same planet, but they are not politically. They are not on the same planet. And I believe, well, I know I'm right in all of this, that Donald Trump thinks of Keir Starmer just exactly what he thinks of all the EU leaders, that he's weak, woke and useless. Inefficient
and not important.
So, as I say, I'm still interested in hearing from you in terms of what you think Keir Starmer will achieve in his talks with the president. Because don't forget, on Monday, Macron thought he'd achieve great things.
Do you know what I think he'll achieve?
And then 2 days later, Donald Trump's sitting there saying the EU was formed to screw the United States.
I think Starmer will achieve what Trump tells him he's going to achieve.
Yeah, but well, you know, whatever they discuss or agree here, I don't think will really matter. I'm just watching the door now. Is it someone coming through it? Hang on. Here's another thing about these press conferences. You know, why can't they just walk through? Every time, so a door opens, and then about 17 flunkies walk out. You know, girls with files under their arm and things like that. Where are they?
And doing this.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. All these self-important flunkies. So we seem to be on the self-important flunky stage of the proceedings. Still no sign. But yeah, I don't think Starmer's going to achieve very much. He thinks, I was saying to Greg Swenson earlier, he thinks that this makes him look good, bestriding the world stage. I'm the bridge between Europe and America. No, you're not. We're very close. I trust Donald Trump and all that. But I think he's going to achieve so little. So people will look at all this fanfare, all this theatre. Oh, here's a letter. You're invited to a state to visit.
That's his only power.
Well,
Trump wants that.
Yeah. So and then he's going to come back, and we'll all realise he didn't achieve anything. So this could end up being worse for Starmer than if he hadn't gone at all.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, look, the only thing that we have that Trump wants is contact with the monarchy, and he does want that. He values that. But nothing else. We're a tiny player. We're insignificant in his world plan. And
yeah, but what do we get back for this invitation to a state visit? Probably nothing.
Probably nothing. Maybe maybe we get the Chagos Islands back.
Well, this is the big question, isn't it? I mean, as I say, if any of these British journalists are worth their salt, it's a slam dunk question.
Yeah.
You know, Britain, the Foreign Secretary said, you got veto on the Chagos Islands, Mr. President. What are you going to do?
I think Labour want him to veto it. I think they don't want to lose face and reverse it themselves. So if he vetoes it, they can just say, well, we tried, but Trump vetoed it.
Yeah, hang on, something's happening. There's a guy with a tie. Is this it? J.D. Vance has walked in. Okay. Right. I think...
Oh, it's got to be positive, though. Next president, do you think?
See, oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, as long as Trump retains the popularity he's commanding now, yes, J.D. Vance. And not only will J.D. Vance be the next president, he will be a brilliant president.
For 2 terms.
Now, I think my take on both of these, you know, a lot of British people in particular like to say Trump's stupid. He is not,
no, he's
stupid.
Not stupid.
He's unique. He's certainly not stupid. He's unusual. He's not stupid. But I wouldn't say he's an intellectual. J.D. Vance is intellectual. Here we go. Hang on. Can it be? Here they are. They're finally here. This is the press conference. Keir Starmer and Donald Trump. Take it away, guys. Enjoy the show, everyone, and we'll commentate throughout it.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Great honor. Today it's my privilege to welcome the Prime Minister of a very special place, the United Kingdom, to the White House. Prime Minister Starmer, you've been terrific in our discussions. You're a very tough negotiator, however. I'm not sure I like that, but that's okay. Very, very special person. The Prime Minister and I have gotten off to an outstanding start. The U.S. and U.K. have a special relationship, very special, really like no other, passed down through the centuries. And we're going to keep it that way. We're going to keep it very strong, as it is. Very importantly, I was just notified by letter from King Charles that he's extended through the Prime Minister a historic second state visit to the United Kingdom. And that's a great honor because it's never happened before. One person has never been extended that honor, and I really do call it an honor, but it's not for me, it's for our country. It's respect for our country. So I just want to thank you, and I want to thank King Charles. Thank you very much, and we accept. I don't know if the media is going to follow us. I have a feeling they might. Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it. I'm pleased to say that the bust of one of the Prime Minister's greatest predecessors, Winston Churchill, is now back in the rightful place in the Oval Office, and we're very proud of it. Our meeting today and the various breakout sessions we had were tremendously productive. Most importantly, I provided the Prime Minister with an update on our efforts to end the bloody and horrible war in Ukraine with Russia, which would never have happened if I were president. That was not going to happen. I promise you that. After 3 years of hellacious conflict, approximately 1 million Ukrainians and Russians have been senselessly killed, but the number, I believe, is much higher than that. Countless schools, hospitals, towns, and beautiful ancient churches have been absolutely obliterated. To begin the process of ending this spiral of death, I had historic back-to-back calls with President Putin, very successful calls, I might add, and President Zelensky, and my team also spoke with the Secretary General of NATO on numerous occasions, and we're working very hard to get that war brought to an end. I think we've made a lot of progress, and I think it's moving along pretty rapidly. And I want to thank all of the people that are here that have been working on it. And we'll let you know what happens. It'll either be fairly soon or it won't be at all. In addition, this week I met with President Macron of France, as you know, and held talks with members of the G7. Tomorrow, the progress toward peace will continue when President Zelensky visits the White House. He'll be here tomorrow in the early part of the day, and we'll be signing a historic agreement that will make the United States a major partner in developing Ukraine's minerals and rare earths and oil and gases, and we have a great understanding. I think it's going to be great for Ukraine. We're going to be at the site, and we'll be digging. We'll be digging. Dig we must. A big utility in New York con at us, and they used to have a sign, dig we must, and we will be digging. But much of the European aid to Ukraine has been sent in the form of loans for which they expect to be paid back, and we didn't have that honor under the Biden administration. He sent money, or just sent it, money after money after money, and never had any knowledge of ever seeing it back. Maybe $300 to $350 billion, but under the breakthrough agreement, very unusual, which everyone said was difficult to get, but it's really very good for Ukraine and very good for us. The American taxpayers will now effectively be reimbursed for the money and hundreds of billions of dollars poured into helping Ukraine defend itself, which by and of itself is a very worthy thing to do. We've paid far more than any other country, and with most of our support, it's been paid in military, the finest weapons anywhere in the world. This includes vast amounts of military hardware, ammunition, and various other things that we now have to start rebuilding our own stockpiles. Additionally, the minerals agreement will provide the basis for a more sustainable future relationship between the United States and Ukraine, and thus stimulate the long-term prosperity that will help the Ukrainians rebuild their country. It's been demolished, and the ruined infrastructure. The infrastructure, as you know, is in very bad shape. In just over 1 month, our administration has already achieved more progress toward peace than years in the other administration where they did nothing toward peace. They didn't understand what was happening. Our approach is basically common sense. As I said, so many of the things that we do are based on common sense. If you want peace, you have to talk, both sides. As I discussed with Prime Minister Starmer, the next step we're making is toward a very achievable ceasefire. We hope that that can happen quickly, because thousands of young people, in this case, we're not talking about Americans, we're talking about Ukrainians and Russians are being killed every week, thousands. And it's a rough battlefield. It's a flat piece of land, and the bullet only stops when it hits somebody. And this week, I saw the reports, and it's I don't even want to say what they are, but thousands of people, young, vibrant people died. And we want to stop that. Senseless. Should have never happened. This will lay the groundwork for a long-term peace agreement that will return stability to Eastern Europe and hopefully ensure that such a terrible war will never happen on European soil, or for that matter, anywhere again. It's a horrible thing that's going on. The disaster in Ukraine shows exactly why it's so important for the United Kingdom and other NATO partners to make large investments in their defense capabilities. In many cases, 4% or 5% of GDP would be appropriate. I know that they're raising it. I just read an article, a great article, about the work you're doing in the UK as to the military. You're raising it quite a bit, which is a great thing to do for your country. It's a great thing to do. It's sad that we need that, but probably need that. So congratulations on that. I know you got it through. After years of chronic underfunding, there's an urgent need to catch up for some countries. And I want to thank the Prime Minister once again for traveling here today. Working together, I believe that we'll once again demonstrate the power of our country's unique friendship. This is indeed a unique friendship. It's been many years, and I think it's only gotten stronger, and we will make sure that it stays that way. We're going to have a great trade agreement. One way or the other, we're going to end up with a very good trade agreement for both countries, and we're working on that as we speak. I think we'll have the confines. I think we'll have something maybe even in terms of possibilities agreed to very shortly. JD's working on it, Vice President, and Scott, and I'm just looking at this all from Mike. You're going to work on it. Everyone's going to work on it. We'll see if we can do something pretty quickly, but we're going to make some great trade agreements with the UK and with the Prime Minister, and it'll happen very quickly. So I just want to thank you again, and please thank King Charles for the invite, and I look forward to you giving our acceptance on behalf of the United States of America. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you for your hospitality. Thank you for your leadership. This has been a very good and very productive visit. And with your family roots in Scotland and your close bond with His Majesty the King, it's good to know that the United Kingdom has a true friend in the Oval Office. And it was so good to see the bust of Winston Churchill back in its rightful place just a moment ago. But look, in a moment of real danger around the world, this relationship matters more than ever. We remain each other's first partner in defence, ready to come to the other's aid, to counter threats wherever and whenever they may arise. No two militaries are more intertwined than ours. No two countries have done more together to keep people safe. And in a few weeks, we mark VE Day, the 80th anniversary of victory in Europe. Britain and America fought side by side to make that happen. One of the greatest moments in our history. We stand side by side still today, and we're focused now on bringing an enduring end to the barbaric war in Ukraine. Mr. President, I welcome your deep and personal commitment to bring peace and to stop the killing. You've created a moment of tremendous opportunity to reach a historic peace deal, a deal that I think would be celebrated in Ukraine and around the world. That is the prize. But we have to get it right. There's a famous slogan in the United Kingdom from after the Second World War. That is that we have to win the peace. And that's what we must do now. Because it can't be peace that rewards the aggressor or that gives encouragement to regimes like Iran. We agree history must be on the side of the peacemaker, not the invader. So the stakes, they couldn't be higher. And we're determined to work together to deliver a good deal. We've discussed a plan today to reach a peace that is tough and fair, that Ukraine will help shape, that's backed by strength, to stop Putin coming back for more. Now, I'm working closely with other European leaders on this, and I'm clear that the UK is ready to put boots on the ground and planes in the air to support a deal, working together with our allies, because that is the only way that peace will last. Mr. President, in this new era, you're also right that Europe must step up. And let me tell you now, I see the growing threats we face, and so the UK is all in. This year we'll be giving more military aid to Ukraine than ever, and just this week I've set out how we're shouldering more of the security burden. We're already one of the biggest spenders in NATO, and now we're going much further, delivering Britain's biggest sustained increase in defence spending since the Cold War. This isn't just talk, it's action, rebalancing the transatlantic alliance, making us all stronger, and standing up for our shared values and shared security, as Britain always has. Mr. President, it's no secret we're from different political traditions, but there's a lot that we have in common. We believe it's not taking part that counts. What counts is winning. If you don't win, you don't deliver. And we're determined to deliver for the working people of Britain and America, who want and deserve to see their lives improve. So we're both in a hurry to get things done, and that's what the UK and US do when we work together. We win and we get things done. So we'll do what it takes to keep our people safe. We'll also work together to deliver some big economic wins that can benefit us both. We have a $1.5 trillion invested in each other's economies, creating over 2.5 million jobs across both economies. Our trading relationship is not just strong, it's fair, balanced and reciprocal. We're leaders together in so many areas, ranked 1 and 2 in the world as investment destinations, 1 and 2 for universities, 1 and 2 for Nobel Prizes, 1 and 2 in golf as well, by the way. And we're the only 2 Western countries with trillion-dollar tech sectors, leaders in AI. And look, we take a similar approach on this issue. Instead of over-regulating these new technologies, we're seizing the opportunities that they offer. So we've decided today to go further, to begin work on a new economic deal with advanced technology at its core. Look, our 2 nations together shaped the great technological innovations of the last century. We have a chance now to do the same for the 21st century. I mean, artificial intelligence could cure cancer. That could be a moonshot for our age. And that's how we'll keep delivering for our people. There are so many opportunities. Keep our nation strong and fulfill the promise of greatness that has always defined this relationship. Finally, to underline the importance of this bond. It was my privilege and honour to bring a letter with me today from His Majesty the King, not only sending his best wishes, but also inviting the President and the First Lady to make a state visit to the United Kingdom an unprecedented second state visit. This has never happened before. It's so incredible, it will be historic. And I'm delighted that I can go back to His Majesty the King and tell him that President Trump has accepted the invitation. So thank you. Our teams will now work together to set a date, and we look forward to welcome you in the United Kingdom. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much. What a beautiful accent. I would have been president 20 years ago if I had that accent. Thank you very much. Okay, let's see here. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Earlier today, you told me that you believe that foreign countries pay tariffs, but Americans who are concerned about higher prices believe, as most people do, that they're paid by consumers and importers when they import things into this country. Can you explain how you came to this belief that foreign governments are paying tariffs? And for the Prime Minister, did you discuss with President Trump his repeated statements of desire to annex Canada? And has the King expressed any concern over the President's apparent desire to remove one of his realms from his control?
So I'll go ahead. The first part, the tariffs are necessary because we've been treated very unfairly by many, many countries, including our friends, friend and foe. But we've been treated very unfairly in trade. At levels that nobody's really ever seen before, and especially under the Biden administration, they really took advantage of the United States. I put massive tariffs on China during my 4 years. We had the best economy in the history of our country, probably the best economy, maybe the best economy in the history of the world. And I used tariffs to even things up. And in particular with China, we took in hundreds of billions of dollars, and we had no inflation. And it's a myth. It's a myth that's put out there by foreign countries that really don't like paying tariffs, and especially to even up. So we've been treated badly by a lot. We're using tariffs. And I find, and you just have to look at the numbers, but I find that it's not about inflation. It's about fairness. And the inflation for us has not existed. And I don't think it's going to exist. We're going to bring our car industry back. We're going to bring our chips back. We're going to bring so many things back to our country, including pharmaceuticals and drugs. And the thing that's going to get us there is tariffs. And I say often it's my favorite word in the dictionary, but I always preface that by saying now, because I got into a lot of trouble with the fake news where they say that's not good. So I say God, love, family, wife, they're all my favorite words, but tariff is about number 4 or 5 on the list. But I will tell you, it's going to make our country rich, and it's going to stop us from being a laughingstock all over the world because we have been taken advantage of like no country has ever been taken advantage of. Thank you very much. And
look, we had a really good discussion, a productive discussion, a good discussion, as a result of which our teams are now going to be working together on an economic deal. Our teams are going to be working together on security in Ukraine. You mentioned Canada. I think you're trying to find a divide between us that doesn't exist. We're the closest of nations, and we had very good discussions today, but we didn't discuss Canada.
Thank you. Please. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yes. Thank you.
Hi, Natasha Clark from LBC. Mr. President, you've said you're working on a new trade deal with Britain, which we of course welcome. President Obama once said Britain was at the back of the queue for that trade deal. Where are we now? When do you think we're going to see that? And Prime Minister, the BBC has today admitted serious flaws over the recent Gaza coverage, suggestions of payments made to people linked to Hamas. Does the BBC still have your trust? Thank you.
Well, they didn't do well with President Obama. He'd never got a lot of things done, and he didn't get a trade deal done that was of any importance or magnitude. We've had great discussions on trade, and I think we're going to have a deal done rather quickly as it can be done. We're going to have something, I think, rather quickly. We expect to do that. Okay? Please.
On the BBC, look, I've been concerned about the programme in question. The Secretary of State had a meeting with the BBC. I think it was yesterday, it could have been the day before. Thank you.
Jeff, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Pardon me. Mr. President, do you support Article 5 of the NATO treaty? And are you concerned that it might be triggered if European peacekeeping forces end up in Ukraine?
I support it. I don't think we're going to have any reason for it. I think we're going to have a very successful peace, and I think it's going to be a long-lasting peace. And I think it's going to happen hopefully quickly. If it doesn't happen quickly, it may not happen at all. And we want it for two reasons. Number one, I want to see on a humane basis, I want to see soldiers stop getting shot, because largely it's soldiers now. Towns have been obliterated, but it's largely that. And I don't want to pay billions and billions and billions of dollars, nor does the Prime Minister or anybody else, on a senseless war that should have never happened. And we're going to get it taken care of. But I think it's going to be a peace that's going to be long-lasting. Do you have a question for the Prime Minister?
Thank you. Mr. Prime Minister, you were asking the President today about a backstop for Europe if the peacekeeping force ends up in Ukraine. Did you feel like you got a satisfying answer for yourself and for Europe? And Mr. President, if you want to comment on that as well, please do.
Yeah, I thought we had a very productive discussion. Obviously, as the President says, the deal has to come first. But yes, our teams are going to be talking about how we make sure that deal sticks, is lasting and enforced. So our teams will be talking about that.
Okay. Please, Blue.
Mr. President, some experts think it could take more than a decade to mine the precious minerals from Ukraine. How much should the U.S. expect to receive, and when do you expect to see that come to fruition?
Well, we're never going to know that answer, but by our being in Ukraine and doing the exploration and also the digging and taking the rare earth, which we need in our country very badly, we'll be doing a substantial amount of work, probably about at least what we have in there, and we hope to be able to do that. You never know when it comes to that. You know, you dig and maybe things aren't there like you think they're there, but we'll be spending a lot of time there. It'll be great for Ukraine. It's like a huge economic development project, so it'll be good for both countries. Okay? Please.
Prime Minister, excuse me, Prime Minister, you've talked about putting British soldiers' boots on the ground in Ukraine in the event that President Trump succeeds with his peace deal. But can you do that without a firm assurance that America will have our back in the form of some kind of security guarantee were Putin to breach that agreement? And Mr. President, tomorrow you're seeing President Zelensky to sign this deal on minerals and energy that could be hugely important to the United States. Will you take the opportunity to apologize to him for calling him a dictator while praising Vladimir Putin, who is a dictator?
Well, Robert, let me start by saying I've been really clear today and previously that I think that European countries, including the United Kingdom, need to step up in our own defence and security. We've been doing that in recent days. You saw the announcement we made on spending just the other day. In addition to that, I've made it clear that the United Kingdom will play its full part in ensuring that if there's a deal, and we hope there is a deal in Ukraine, that is a lasting deal that sticks. And we're obviously working with other European countries on that, France and NATO in particular. But I think I'm hosting 18 countries on Sunday to further our discussions. You heard from the President this morning that, you know, as historically has always been the case, we have each other's backs. And today we've been talking about the deal, how that will be a lasting deal, and coming out of this, our teams will now be talking in detail about that.
And I think we're going to have a very good meeting tomorrow, 11 o'clock, and I think we're going to have a very good meeting tomorrow morning. We're going to get along really well, okay? We have a lot of respect. I have a lot of respect for them. We've given them a lot of equipment and a lot of money, but they have fought very bravely, no matter how you figure it. They have really fought. Somebody has to use that equipment, and they have been very brave in that sense. Yeah, please, go ahead.
So the Gaza ceasefire deal is nearing an end this Saturday, and there's been some worry that phase 2 might never get there. Do you believe that phase 2 of the ceasefire in Gaza will come to fruition? And have you spoken to Netanyahu about it? And for the Prime Minister, this peacekeeping deal has been pushed forward by the UK and France as well. Have you been in discussions with any other European countries to join this initiative? And are you expecting Commonwealth countries to also join the effort? Thank you.
So we're working very hard in the Middle East and Gaza and all of the problems, and it's been going on for years and years and centuries and centuries. It's a tough neighborhood, but it could be a very beautiful neighborhood, and I think we're going to come up with some pretty good solutions. But phase 1 is almost complete. We've had some people that have been very seriously injured, very seriously hurt, both physically and mentally. They've come out of there very, very, and some of them in very, very bad shape. It's shocking. Many young people aren't in bad shape. Young people are strong, healthy. They don't die. People have come out dead, young people and old people. It's a rough situation, but I think we're going to make it much better. And I think that we've had a huge impact on that since we've been in just the 4 weeks. I think we've had a huge impact on Gaza, the Middle East, and we have some pretty good talks going on concerning lots of other people that are going to make it better. So we'll see what happens. Nobody really knows, but we'll see what happens. But I think we've had a very positive impact. Prime Minister?
Yeah, on the question of the European countries, yes, I've spoken to a number of countries, particularly in the last few weeks. We had a meeting in Paris last week. I've got a meeting on Sunday with 18 countries to further our discussions. Obviously, we've been talking quite intensely to our French colleagues and to NATO, but to other countries as well, because, as I say, I think it's important for European countries, including the United Kingdom, to step up and do more in the defence and security of Europe and our continent and the United Kingdom, and we'll do so. Well, we're talking to a number of other countries.
Thank you. Yes, in the red, please. Pink red, flaming red.
Is it me or her?
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. A question on Ukraine. Number one is, if you're not considering the security guarantees, are you open to other forms of, for example, intelligence cooperation with Ukraine? And Mr. Prime Minister, President Trump has proposed a plan for Gaza. Does this fit into the two-state solution that the UK held for a long time? Do you see it fit into your general Middle Eastern strategy? Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much. We're open to many things, but before I even think about that, that's almost pleasant to think about, because that would mean that peace has been arrived at. We have to arrive at that peace. And, you know, you went 3.5 years with an administration that never even really had a meeting. They didn't have a meeting on peace. And there was no prospect of peace. I think, frankly, Russia wanted to go through the whole long deal. I don't think they do anymore. I don't think they do. We had a very big impact on that whole situation. But I don't like talking about phase 2 until I get phase 1. Phase 1 is I have to make peace. And we have to get Russia to agree. We have to get Ukraine to agree. And I think we will, I think we've come a long way. I believe we're going to get it done. I wouldn't say that if I didn't think so. And I think it will be very important, very historic, and we're going to save a lot of lives.
On the question of Gaza, the last few weeks of the ceasefire have been very impactful, and for me there are two images that I remember more than any other. The first is Emily Damari, who is British, being reunited with her mother. You may remember she had her fingers missing after what she endured. That was an incredible moment. I'd spent a lot of time with her mother whilst she was held captive, and her mother went through absolute torture. The other image was thousands of Palestinians marching through rubble, trying to return to their communities and their homes. So we have to do everything we can to ensure that the ceasefire continues, so that more hostages can be returned, so that aid can be brought in that's desperately desperately needed. We need to allow Palestinians to return and to rebuild their lives, and we must all support them in doing that. And yes, I believe that the two-state solution is ultimately the only way for a lasting peace in the region.
And think of that, she came home with her fingers and part of her hand blown off.
That's terrible.
How bad does it get? And we had others that came home in much worse shape than that.
Yeah.
It's a terrible situation. Please, yes.
Thank you. Mr. President, did our Prime Minister persuade you not to put tariffs on the UK? And if I may, Prime Minister, do you think that Vladimir Putin is a man who will keep his word? Thanks.
He tried. He was working hard, I'll tell you that. He earned whatever the hell they pay him over there. But he tried. I think there's a very good chance that in the case of these two great friendly countries, I think we could very well end up with a real trade deal where the tariffs wouldn't be necessary. We'll see. But he earned whatever they pay him here and today. He was working hard at lunch, and I'm very receptive to it. I think in all fairness, in all seriousness, I think we have a very good chance at arriving at a very good deal. JD and Scott and Howard, all the people are working on it, and I think we have a good chance at arriving at a deal that could be terrific, really terrific for both countries. Okay? Thank you.
On the second part of the question, I think my views on Putin are pretty well rehearsed and pretty well known. My concern is that if there's a deal, and I hope there is a deal, that it must be a lasting deal, that it's not a temporary measure. And that is why I think it's really important that Putin knows that this deal, a historic deal, which I very much hope comes about, is there, and it's a lasting deal, and that we're able to deal with any inclination he has to go again or go further.
I think we'll have two deals. I think we'll have a deal on ending the war, and I think we're going to end up with a great trade deal with you. And it's an honor to be with you, and I want to thank everybody very much. Thank you very much. Thank you.
President, on measles,
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
What a show. I really enjoyed that. I loved old Keir Starmer, instead of saying underline, said undermine our relationship. So he's still got his sausages talent, hasn't he? Instead of hostages, he said sausages. He's got to try to cure himself of using precisely the wrong word at precisely the wrong moment. I don't think we learned anything there, really, except, oh, yeah, we're friends, but, you know, there's a long way to go. Starmer, I think, sort of absolutely, palpably trying to say, look at a special relationship. Yeah, Trump's not going to, or the president won't do anything without talking to me first, and so on and so forth. Trump, I think, reflecting what we heard about him last week when he was asked, so Keir Starmer's coming, and he went, yeah, he wanted to come, so hey ho. So I'm sceptical about what this is going to achieve. Macron found out on Monday that what Trump tells you one day, he'll say the opposite tomorrow. I didn't detect great love between them at all. But let me know what you think. We're going to break now. We'll take a couple of calls. And by the way, Kinsey Schofield will join me a little later. We're going to update you on Meghan, so it's all things America tonight. But we'll take a couple of calls first, find out what you think. Let me know what you thought of that press conference, what you thought about the body language, what you thought about the language. I mean, anything much achieved there, do you think? Old Starmer, lasting peace. Oh, by the way, one thing I would say, when he said, what a beautiful accent. No, Donald, that is not a beautiful accent. But many more takeaways from that gathering there. So let me know what you think. 0344 499 1000. We're going to break now, and we'll talk in a little while.
The mineral deal that Zelensky supposedly is going to be persuaded to sign. I was listening to somebody on Times Radio last night on the way home who was saying, you know, any deal for sort of getting lithium out of the ground and turning it into whatever it is you want to turn it into is a very long process. It takes a very long time. There won't be any sort of immediate, you know, shall we say, dividend of doing this deal. And Trump, it seems to me, is a man that likes immediacy. He likes to get a result straight away.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Kinsey Schofield was standing by with the latest news on Meghan. It's pretty good today, so you won't want to miss that. But I thought we'd better get some reaction from all of you first on what you thought of the show. The theatre we've just witnessed in the White House, Starmer and Trump giving a press conference prior to that, sitting around in the Oval Office trying to be chums. Certainly Keir Starmer desperately trying to be chums. Trump not so much, I would suggest. Let's go to Laura Jane in Hampshire. Hello, Laura Jane. What did you make of it all?
Well, I'm embarrassed. I'm angry.
Yeah.
I'm amazed at our two-faced Prime Minister. That's about as sweary as I can get.
Mm-hmm.
All he's trying to do is play the role of this great statesman. Look at me, look at me.
Mm-hmm.
And I also wanted to say, mentioning the Churchill bust, which has been put back into the Oval Office, nobody asked him what has happened to the various Churchill busts and pictures that have been removed from the Houses of Parliament.
What a great point. And the various dignitary portraits that have been removed from number 10 and number 11. What a really good point, Laura.
It just shows how two-faced he really is. He's just playing the stage, playing the audience, and almost parroting what he thinks Trump wants him to say. I mean, I don't know. I actually have to applaud his speech makers because they did a good job of making him look this sort of great.
It's a bit scripted though, wasn't it? I mean, he's such a robot, and that awful voice of his, you know.
I know he needs a script, but I as I say, I'm embarrassed because, you know, he gets back onto our shores, and you know he wants to get rid of our free speech. He'd quite like digital ID in the back so that he can look at all our bank statements, tell us what to eat, tell us what to say, tell us where not to drive. Yeah. You know, J.D. Vance is absolutely right in his.
Couldn't agree with you more, Laura. I couldn't agree with you more. And you know, when they're in the Oval Office, old Starmer going, "We've had free speech, and the free speech we'll have it for a very long time." Not with you as Prime Minister, we won't, mate. You're trampling all over free speech. It's a disgrace, and that's what I think Trump really thinks about Keir Starmer. He thinks he's just another woke, weak leader with not much regard for freedom of expression and freedom of speech. So, you know, I agree with you, Laura Jane. Quite an embarrassment. Thank you for the call. I've got to move on, but please call me again. Laura Jane, excellent call there in Hampshire. Let's go to Ben in London. Hello, Ben.
Hello.
Hi. What did you think? What did you think of the show?
Well, I thought that Starmer was actually trying to up the actual international play, and where clearly Trump didn't, and so he was trying to say this, that, and the other, and we are the best. We can do this, we can do that, and clearly Trump never. but also the NATO backstop is not going to happen, and NATO is not going to go into Ukraine. Simple.
Yeah, well, or more to the point, America's not going to go into Ukraine. And Keir Starmer has begged Donald Trump, well, if we do have to go into Ukraine to keep the peace, can you at least give us military air cover, that sort of thing? And Trump, basically, that's a no.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think what we can take from what we've just witnessed is that Keir Starmer achieved nothing there.
He was just like waffling on about international this, international that, but he's not international.
Yeah, no, it's performative. He's trying to look like a player on the world stage. He's trying to look like someone who's getting a great deal out of Donald Trump. But I don't think we heard anything there. I don't think we heard anything there that indicates he's got any sort of deal at all. Just waffle. Good point, mate. Thank you very much for the call. Call me again. Let's go to... have we got another call? No, we've just lost it. I wanted to talk about the Chagos Islands. Emlyn is there. Emlyn in Tewkesbury, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Hi, Emlyn. Hi, Emlyn.
Couple of quick points.
Yeah.
I was surprised that nobody brought up the Chagos.
Yeah, do you know what? Can we just dwell on that for a second? These British journalists. I mean, I don't know quite how they were policing that press conference, but some British journalists, old Robert Peston, waffling on and on and on.
Well, he's a pinko anyway.
Yeah, but what the question from a British journalist should have been that David Lammy, the Foreign Secretary, yesterday said that President Trump has the veto on whether or not we give the Chagos Islands to Mauritius. What are you going to do, President Trump? Nobody asked that key question.
No, they didn't, and nobody answered on the fact that the King is kind of very, very woke on climate change,
as is Starmer. Yeah,
and nobody mentioned fracking.
Yeah, exactly right. Another shame on the British press contingent. They're so compliant. They're so terrified to disturb the universe. You know.
Of course, and you were right on Starmer. He kept on looking at his notes. He is not a free speaker at all.
Oh, it was painful.
I agree with the last lady who mentioned Maggie's photograph and all the rest of the stuff in the.
Very good point. You know, they're busy taking down all the figures like Disraeli and things like that from their offices. Starmer and Rachel Reeves, Rachel from Accounts. Meanwhile, the President Trump is put back the bust of our greatest Prime Minister, Winston Churchill. And it makes you think, doesn't it, Emlyn? We've gone from Winston Churchill to Keir Starmer. Maybe that's emblematic of our decline.
If we get a reform government, that they repeal the 19whatever that thing that Blair and his...
1998, you mean the Equalities Act?
Because his missus twisted his arm and said, bring this one in, because she's another woke bloody... Yeah,
absolutely. Emily, listen, I've got to move on. I'm with you. I've got to move on, but very good points. I think we're on the same page. Emlyn in Tewkesbury, and we're going to go to Kinsey in just a little while, but I think I've got time to squeeze in one more call. This is Wayne in Hertfordshire, who also wants to talk about the Chagos Islands. Didn't you think, Wayne, my thought is shame on the British journalists that they didn't ask Donald Trump in that press conference, what are you going to do about the Chagos Islands? Because the Foreign Secretary said 2 days ago, or was it yesterday, I think, that we're going to give Donald Trump, the president, veto on whether or not we give those Chagos Islands away. My feeling is Donald Trump will say no, but we didn't get an answer then, did we?
We got nothing at all. I was actually very concerned that not one person, as you said, brought it up. That should have been a top priority. If we're going to give away something that didn't belong to anybody and give them 18 billion or as Farage has said, possibly 50, 60, 70 billion with inflation, etc., What on earth is going on?
Yeah, here's another question, Wayne, that I would have asked. And I should say, in fairness to the press contingent there, these things it's very hard to get your oar in. There's usually people policing the whole event, so it may be that people were silenced. But the other question I'd have asked the President, or I'd have asked Starmer, is this. I'd have said, now, the President, here's the policies on energy are drill, baby, drill, back to gas, oil, gas and oil. He doesn't give a damn about the environment. What do you make of that, given that you are obsessed with greenery, obsessed with the environment? What do you make of the President's environmental policies? Nobody asked that, did they?
They are completely different people. They are completely different ends of the spectrum.
Yes, they are.
And do you know what? I mean, how many times did Starmer go during his speech?
Yeah.
Did you see Trump go once? No.
Yeah. Also, Wayne, you're quite. I agree with you. Absolutely. Trump's wasn't scripted. And there's our little guy, reading from this piece of paper like a robot,
He's representing our country, but he doesn't represent our country. He represents what he wants to represent. He doesn't care about us.
Yeah,
He has no feeling for the people of the UK, for what our forefathers fought for. He is letting our country fall to pieces on his watch, and we're all paying for it, and none of us can do anything about it. We are being taken for mugs.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And last question to you, Wayne. My takeaway from what we've just witnessed over the last couple of hours is there's been a lot of waffle, a lot of nice words between the two guys, Trump and Starmer. But I feel Starmer has achieved nothing here. Nothing. What do you feel?
He's achieved absolutely nothing. I mean, I was hoping that he's representing the UK and would actually come out and gone, look, we've achieved this, we've achieved that. He's done nothing. Yeah. He's just made himself to show that he is actually capable of 0.0 of anything. He can't.
Last point.
Shoelaces.
Last point to you, Wayne, it's this, when Starmer's going, we've really stepped up to the plate with the defence spending, we've taken the initiative and all this. Donald Trump is telling Britain, Donald Trump is telling Britain, I want you to spend 5% of your GDP, your gross domestic products, on defence. Keir Starmer says, we've really done it. We were spending 2.3%, but today I'm committed to spending 2.5% in a roadmap by 2027. Trump's not going to be impressed by that, is he?
No. And Kev, can I just make one quick point?
Quickly,
because I know you're a busy guy and you've got a lot of people calling.
Yep.
On the 19th, in PMQs, because you guys have stopped covering it, so I've had to take it upon myself to watch it. All right? So,
well, because it can be boring, but point taken. Go on.
It can be. Yeah. It can be.
Go on.
However, on the 19th, and I've tried looking at this on YouTube before I contacted you guys, this is not available online. Keir Starmer clearly said to Kemi Badenoch that it was a national security issue, the reason that we had to do this deal.
The Chagos, I know exactly the moment you refer to. He acted like there's some secret that the rest of us don't know.
We can't know about. Yes.
Well, that's a scandal in itself.
Yeah, and he said to her, if you had the opportunity to be briefed, hang on a minute.
Yeah.
If it's such a security issue, then surely we should all know about what this is.
Yeah.
No, I don't get this whole...
Yeah, well, I don't believe there is a secret. I just think that Keir Starmer, like all his lefty North London lawyer mates, just wants to give away the Chagos because he thinks it's all about colonial guilt. It's a throwback to the British Empire and all that kind of crap. But I do hope, for God's sake, I hope that that President Trump does veto that deal, because it's insane. Wayne, got to move on, but thank you very much for an excellent call. Call me again. Wayne in Hertfordshire. Let's go to break now. When we come back, we'll go to Los Angeles. Been to America a lot tonight, haven't we? Over to Los Angeles to talk to Kinsey Schofield. That next. Stay tuned.
Earlier this week, after he pleaded guilty to assault, a drunken, repeated, vicious punching of a constituent. His Runcorn constituency, he was sentenced to 10 weeks, but it's been now, after an appeal at Chester Crown Court, suspended for 2 years. He very likely will still face that recall petition, and a by-election is likely to be called, but not a day behind, well, not more than a couple of days behind bars for punching someone. Two-tier justice, anybody? God forbid he'd written a hurty tweet to the constituent rather than punched him. He'd probably still be behind bars for 20 years.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, as you know, we've all been very worried about the sausages in Gaza, and now we're extremely concerned because Keir Starmer has talked of undermining the King's invitation to Donald Trump. So he can't get his words right. Have a look at this. Okay, we're going to put it out in a minute. Basically, he talked about the King. This will, he said, this is a very important invitation to Donald Trump to come here for a state visit, very rare second state visit for him. He said, and this will, and I want to undermine the importance of this invitation. What he meant was underline. He's got to cure himself of this kind of spoonerism problem he's got. Right, let's quickly play a couple of press conference. We've got a couple of WhatsApp messages on the press conference, and then we'll go to Kinsey. So first up, here's Michael.
Hiya, Kevin. It's Mike from Lancashire. Just watching Starmer and Donald Trump. My God, Kevin, please protect us from Starmer. He stood there next to Trump, looking like a scared little puppet. Trump, as usual, takes over the room and makes everything sound great. And there is differing Starmer representing this country. What an embarrassment. Cheers, Kevin. Cheers, Dr. Annie. Speak soon.
Well, that's Michael. I think reflecting what a lot of people are saying about Keir Starmer's sort of stuttering, underlining, reading robot performance there. That it was something of an embarrassment, a national embarrassment. But then again, I think he is a national embarrassment. Quickly, here's Mart, another WhatsApp voice note, this again on the press conference.
What a pair of waffling buffoons. You're right in what you said. You know, I don't think we learned anything from that meeting, that press conference. Both deflecting, both manipulating and massaging their own egos, but particularly Trump, who's just full of it as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, there is no special relationship. The reality is the Americans are putting pressure on the United Kingdom economically, and we're not able to put the same pressure back on them. I still think that our future lies with Europe, and developing a good relationship with Europe, and let the Americans do whatever they're doing. There's nothing in Europe there's nothing in America that we can't get from Europe anyway, at probably a better price and a better deal. For me, we should just let ourselves go from this special relationship, which is just doesn't exist. Love the show, and thank you.
Well, thanks for that, Mark. This is Talk. You're sending a WhatsApp voice note to. I don't think that most of our audience particularly want us to have a specially close relationship with Europe. I respect your views, but personally, I'd like us to have a close relationship with America and sod Europe, sod the EU. That's my view. But thank you, Mark. Seriously, always interested to hear other views. I mean, I know where you're coming from, but personally, I don't agree, but interesting viewpoint. Right, OK, it is now time. She's been waiting patiently. We're going to go over to the west coast of America. We've been in Washington. Now we're going to go over to Los Angeles and speak to the great Kinsey Schofield, our royal guru. Hello, Kinsey. Thanks for waiting. Sorry to keep you.
No, not a problem.
Right, let's kick off. Well, we've got, I think, a couple of videos to play, but Meghan now is in full publicity mode, trying to look like the excited, attractive, cutesy kind of woman ahead of the release of her programme next Tuesday. Is it Tuesday? The Meghan with Love on Netflix. We've got a clip from that. We've also got something she's posted on Instagram. We'll play that in a minute, but I sent it to you through the wonder of WhatsApp, and both of us sent each other puke, sick emojis. It really is. I mean, you know, she's not kidding anyone, is she?
Well, what it was is Jason Knauf going on 60 Minutes Australia and reminding the entire world of the bully allegations. So Meghan Markle having to drop a trailer where she's embracing her, you know, all of this crew on her reality show and thanking them so much for their hard work and dedication. And I felt like it was her trying to distract from Jason Knauf's interview where he said, I have no regrets. I don't care that the email that I sent to the Prince of Wales surfaced saying that Meghan had driven out 2 employees recently with her nasty behavior. I have no regrets. That's what I immediately thought of when I saw that video. Meghan just trying to distract again from the fact that she has a terrible reputation when it comes to working with people beneath her or her management skills in general.
Yeah, indeed. Well, listen, we've got a couple of videos. We're trying to get the Instagram one ready because you and I have almost been sick over it, this nauseating, cutesy thing. We'll play that in a little while. But what she has released, probably more significantly, is a kind of almost an official clip, another clip from With Love, Meghan. Check this out.
This is about connecting with friends and just learning. Let's go. And the best thing about Koreatown, you could go to all ages clubs and karaoke bars.
I was part of dance crews, all that stuff.
You
know?
were?
Yeah.
No one talks about all the dances that were such a big deal. Not the actual dance,
Like
but
the
the
Roger
dances.
Rabbit
The
era?
Roger Rabbit and the Kid and Play, and it was just so much fun.
Man, you and I are so similar. You and I are like we should have met a long time ago.
Do you listen to music when you're cooking?
I do. I listen to a lot of lyrical hip hop, jazz, sometimes speed metal, death metal. And
No, you don't.
Yeah.
What's speed metal?
Just like dark.
That doesn't sound like the joy of cooking.
Yeah, but we all have different sides to who we are.
That's true. Multifaceted folks. That's what we are.
It's good for when you're butchering. So I cut these into squares.
Look at what we made.
So is it over? Is it over? I mean, Kinsey, even that little clip was really dull, wasn't it? I mean, can you imagine 30 minutes of that 8 times? Because that's what we've got ahead of us. We've got 8 episodes of that. Why does she think that's entertaining? What do you think?
I think she is... Meghan Markle is Meghan Markle's biggest fan. I don't know, because I was incredibly bored by that too. And I had a thought today, because there's a lot of chatter around Meghan Markle appearing at the Oscars to promote that show, which when's the last time you saw Snooki skirting down the red carpet of the Academy Awards? That's a reality show.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been like fiercely saying that there's no way this is going to happen. So all the clickbait surrounding it has really upset me. And one of the reasons why I don't think she'd go is because I think she is incredibly insecure. And I think that space is one of the spaces where she would really feel that. And it occurred to me that this idea that she's built an entire show about the way she makes people feel special. It's not a cookery show. It's like Meghan making everything, turning the ordinary into extraordinary, and how she makes her friends feel special. The few ones that have made the cut, because Jessica Mulroney is probably sitting around wondering what she did to lose access to Meghan. But I think that it's not about Meghan really truly wanting to make the people around her feel special. I think it's that insecurity again. And Meghan, the way that Meghan deals with her insecurity is please like me, please like me, please like me. So she does these things for people, trying to secure their friendship or trying to secure their interest in her. And I feel like a lot of several people have messaged me. What is it? It's her voice. It's everything about her. It's that lack of authenticity. True, but how much of it is that we see the insecurity and it's her trying to convert that insecurity into confidence that I think turns a lot of us off.
Yeah, I wrote this to you on WhatsApp, but this is my theory about it. By the way, who is this guy, the speed metal fan? Who is that?
He's a chef, Chef Choi, I believe. I can't remember his first name. Yeah.
Okay. What I think about this, so you look at this. I mean, it's boring as hell anyway. But it's also very fake. It's an actress delivering a performance, and also these natural little Instagram videos that she keeps posting. Remember the one with Billie Eilish? Hopefully, we'll play you the new one in a minute. I mean, they just reek of fakery. They reek of a kind of fraudulent performance, and I think that she is so kind of fake that she can't recognise when something is obviously fake. She can't recognise that people are going to look at this and go, this isn't real. This is just some kind of performative kind of moment that she's delivering to try and seem to be something that she isn't. She's so fake, she doesn't recognise fakery when it's obvious. Do you see what I'm saying?
I do. But, it's not just that. It's that she, for the last almost 5 years, has been the queen of victimhood and has complained perpetually. And so for her to all of a sudden at year 4 decide that her brand is going to be chasing joy right after Kamala Harris lost on that campaign line, by the way, I feel like it's just hard for us to digest because she reintroduced herself to us. Her first rebrand was sitting on that patio furniture in the middle of a global plague, complaining about titles and tiaras to Oprah Winfrey. Then she goes in and launches another attack on the British royal family in the form of a Netflix docuseries. I believe it was a 6-part docuseries, maybe. Yes. That was a commercial success. And then the jabs kept coming. The Cut magazine interview, the Variety magazine interview, archetypes. You'd hear sly digs and archetypes every once in a while. And she's been so negative throughout the last 4 years that that's how we've come to know her. That's what we associate her with. This like gleefully, I'm just going to run around the kitchen and have a great time person does not come off as authentic to us because we've watched her cry for 4 years straight.
Exactly right. Always playing the victim card. Kind of depressing and kind of dull. As I always say to you, as far as I can work out, at some point in her life, Meghan swallowed a bucket full of boring pills and is incapable of being entertaining or interesting. I mean, that little snippet from the show was almost as bad as that other snippet that they put out a couple of weeks ago. So, listen, Kinsey, because we've been bogged down by this Washington press office, press conference. We're going to have to get a couple of commercial breaks in. So do you mind if we go to break and we'll come back to you straight after this? So if you could stay there, we'll return to Kinsey Schofield after these messages.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with Kinsey Schofield over there in Los Angeles. We're discussing Meghan ahead of the release of her eagerly unawaited show, With Love Meghan, comes out on Netflix, I think, on Tuesday. I will be watching the first episode. I'll probably tail off after that. I suspect that's what most people will do. There's no doubt.
I can tell you what episodes to watch so you can see Prince Harry, and if you have any desire to watch that.
That will give me an indication of what episodes I don't want to watch. Listen, Kinsey, so stay where you are. We found this Instagram. We were discussing before the break there that fakery is her problem. She cannot even recognise fakery because she is so fake, I think. For her, I believe life is a kind of performance. Check this out.
Laid under the willow tree, the last weekend of summer, the empire at our fingertips, the autumn to discover.
Oh dear, past the sick bucket. I mean, you know, that's just a performance, isn't it, Kins?
Hey, you know what I say? Throw the YMCA over that woman dancing, and she's doing the Trump dance. And I think that that's the endorsement we've all been waiting for, okay?
She would hate that. She would hate that. But let's not forget what all this is about. So that little cute, oh, look at me, aren't I cute? And that little clip, oh, you like speed metal? What is that? Oh, you know, and all that. I mean, by the way, great question. Do you play music when you cook? Oh wow! Put that girl to the head of the journalism
Barbara
class.
Walters, eat your heart out.
Yeah, exactly. Do you play music when you cook? Great question. Anyway, let's not forget what all this is about. She is trying to look cute, just as she was in Canada, kissing the lips off Harry at every opportunity. Cute, fun, happy, carefree, and all of this is a publicity drive to try and blot out the backdrop, the backstory, and that is that she bullies her staff. So she's had now 3 years of that, maybe more than 3 years of serious charges of bullying her staff, and she's trying to here to say, I'm a lovely person, I don't do that, but she clearly does bully her staff, and people won't forget that.
If you believe Vanity Fair, The Hollywood Reporter, Valentine Lowe, Tom Bauer, Tom Quinn, and the list goes on and on of people that have reported it and have yet to receive any sort of lawsuit whatsoever. Anyone that hasn't been challenged in the court of law from two very litigious people who, in fact, did threaten, specifically Valentine Lowe, with litigation. Yeah, I do think that it's fair to say that she is not very kind to her staff. It takes more than buying the crew some crock pots or whatever the iNews reported after your show wraps, or insisting people take lemons from your backyard when they leave your house after a meeting. It takes more than that. It's about the way you make people feel every single day. And the way that the Vanity Fair, I think, got into it a little bit more than most people do, but really that mean girl mentality, that making you feel this small, kicking you when you're down, they really go into some details. And I think you and I talked about how we've all had bosses like that, and getting away from those bosses is one of the best feelings in the world. When you tell them to go to you-know-where and you walk out that door, there is a weight that lifts off of your shoulders, and you realize that you've chosen yourself and your sanity over $1, and it feels great. And there are at least 20 of those people that can relate
the Sussex Survivors Club. I think it's comfortably over 20 people who have quit in horror, having worked for her. Many of them speaking subsequently, as you said, to the Hollywood Reporter, which brought out a real investigation into her bullying last September, and then the January edition, last month's edition of Vanity Fair, very serious magazine, the American Bible of magazines, 8,000-word demolition job, really, which really stuck it to her, saying that she was so bad to her staff that one traumatized employee had to go into long-term therapy. She's been described as a tyrant in high heels who reduces grown men to tears. Now, the big story this week, as you suggested earlier, Kinsey, is that Jason Knopf, who was their press guy, their public relations guy when they were in Britain, worked for Harry and Meghan in the palaces. He's the one who raised the alarm about her bullying, saying that her behaviour was unacceptable, and that he was very concerned that she had bullied at least two much-loved PAs, personal assistants, out of the royal household. They just quit in distress. And the phrase that stuck in my mind was, he said in this email, he put it round to all the important people, including Her Majesty the Queen, the late great Queen. He said he was very concerned about her unacceptable behaviour. That's a quote. And he said, she always seems to have someone in her sights. Now, that is quite a charge, isn't it?
It goes along with that mean girl description that Vanity Fair talks about. That's just, that is, it reminds you of high school. It reminds you of the girl in high school that she was insecure and didn't feel like she fit in very well. So the way she dealt with it was by lashing out at other people. And I always felt like that was Meghan's problem in the palace. Specifically, I talked to Tom Quinn, your old friend. I talked to him about it years ago. And we talked about just the difference in Diana versus Meghan. Diana grew up an aristocrat. You know, Diana grew up with staff, with, you know, surrounded by, I hate to use the word servants, but surrounded by people.
Well, that's what they are.
Surrounded by people there hired to help her and be there whenever she needed them. And she was, because she just knew that life, she was overly friendly, would buy them Christmas gifts and would show up at their cottages and have tea with them around the table, and was just very, you know, sweet and kind. And with Meghan, she was trying to overcompensate for the fact that she felt like she didn't belong, or that they didn't respect her enough, or she, you know, they should be treating her the same way they treated Catherine, the Princess of Wales. No, they shouldn't. Catherine, the Princess of Wales is going to be queen one day. Catherine, the Princess of Wales has been around for almost 20 years, or 20 years. And Catherine, the Princess of Wales treats everyone the way she wants to be treated, with ridiculous kindness and empathy. Meghan stumped around like a dictator in heels and said to one of the employees, according to Valentine Lowe, "You know I'm going to be your boss one day," while she was just dating Prince Harry. So I think she has a chip on her shoulder because she wasn't born into this life.
Yeah, exactly. I'll tell you what it indicates, is she enjoys making people's lives a misery. This is clearly the charge. She always seems to have someone in her sights, that she actually enjoys that process. And so, as you said the other day, the thing is, the big question, as she tries to launch herself as this, you know, lovable, caring, sharing, carefree lady from Montecito, is she a likeable person? And I don't think she is. I don't think people like her. That is a problem. You mentioned Kate there, all over the front page of The Sun there, and I wouldn't put it past Kate. A little veiled attack on Meghan. She went... she did a royal visit to these kitchens yesterday, and they met, her and William made pancakes and bread and things like that, and they brought some jam out, and Kate said, Catherine, I should say, the Princess of Wales, she said, "Oh yeah, I make really good plum jam. I'll give you the recipe." And people are saying that is something of a veiled attack on the Queen of Jam in Montecito, who isn't putting her jam up for sale yet. So a little word on that. And also we need to comment on the fact that she isn't going to have anything for sale next week, that her new website, as ever, as it has hastily been renamed, it just isn't going to have anything for sale to coincide with the release of With Love, Meghan, after all. So again, it's a shambles, isn't it?
It is. It's totally insane. Because I think that anybody with any sort of common sense says, use this show that Netflix has provided you as a vehicle to drive traffic to a place where you could try to market items and sell products yourself. It's a no-brainer. This was a huge missed opportunity. But when it comes to the Princess of Wales and the jam, I think that it was an organic moment. I don't think there was anything vindictive or vicious about it, but it just shows us how different these two women are.
Yeah.
Let me give you my jam recipe. Oh, you like making jam? You're growing your own plums. Let me give you my jam recipe. Meghan Markle, for $19.99, you can buy my jam. I mean, it's just such a difference.
On sale at Netflix stores now. Exactly.
Yeah.
You're right. She's trying to rinse people, whereas Kate is just naturally going about her business. So exactly right. And so what are you looking forward to most when the show comes out next week?
The end credits.
I'll tell you. But just the last point, though, I think we made this point the other day, though. What I can't believe about this, in terms of the shambles, right? So why did the American Riviera orchard name go down the chute? Why did she have to get rid of it? Because she just plucked it out of the ether, didn't really think about it, and said, oh, I'm going to call it American Riviera Archer. What a great name. And she then gets sued left, right and centre. You can't use that trademark. Other companies with similar names said you can't use that name. She was told, well, you've mentioned a geographical area. That means you can only sell produce from that geographical area, and so on and so forth. So she made this big naming mistake. What was it now? 2 years ago. And now she's done it all over again with as ever. You got two.
Why not just use the TIG? The TIG was yours before Harry. It reassures people that you are your own person. You are this feminist you claim to be. Just be like, hey, remember that thing I was successful at years ago? I'm still proud of that, and I'm going to roll that back out. Here's here's rebrand number 365. Why not just use the TIG?
Yeah, but she's under attack. 2 clothing companies have got the same name. So she's been told, well, that means if you do stick with as ever...
No as ever panties.
Yeah, you cannot...
Sorry, Megan.
You can't sell you can't sell clothes. Also, she's being potentially sued by that Mallorcan village, Perores, because they say she nicked her logo. I don't think she nicked their logo. She didn't steal their logo. She just didn't think about it. She said, oh, that's nice, palm tree, couple of birds. It's almost identical to the village of Perores' logo.
And you know that
no research.
You know that they say that the hummingbirds are they stand for Queen Elizabeth because Queen Elizabeth visited Prince Harry after she died in the form of a hummingbird. I kid you not.
Oh, really?
Sources told People Magazine. You know, if it's coming from People Magazine, it's Meghan Markle on the other end of the phone.
Unbelievable. Well, on that bombshell, I think we better part company now. Well, I'm going to join Kinsey next week on Tuesday night so that we can look back, we can critique with Love Meghan. So usually I see her on Monday, but it's going to be next Tuesday. Big thanks to Kinsey, as always. Let's go to break right now.
Does anybody know who Keir Starmer is in America?
Well, I think the short answer to that is no. It's Keir who, if you ask most Americans. But then I wouldn't put a lot of faith in most Americans in knowing who politicians are. If you ask your average person on the street, they couldn't tell you who their member of Congress is.
Right.
So, political engagement, as I'm sure it is over in the UK as well, is severely lacking compared to those of us who cover it for a living.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. It's been an unusual show tonight, obviously because of the press conference, the very delayed press conference. So what were they? I think I'm right. So they were an hour and a half late, but that's politics. These things never happen on time. Now I've got a couple of. This is an interesting message. This is, I say it hasn't got a name on it, but I think it's right. You ask the question, what will Starmer achieve in America? The answer is sod all. And this is Bill from Romsey. He says, Starmer won't achieve anything. He will spin the visit, that's for damn sure. If Trump vetoes the Chagos Island deal, that will only help Rachel from Accounts. Great show. Well, I don't care about that. I just think he should veto it. Let's talk about that. Let's go to Georgina on the phone in London. Hi, Georgina.
Hello, Kevin. Well, I was expecting nothing from this meeting, and I've got to say I was not disappointed.
Yeah, you got nothing. Yeah, it was ridiculous.
Absolutely. I mean, Starmer has got more faces than Big Ben. If you think about a couple of weeks ago when he was saying, I wouldn't invite him to dinner, I've never seen anything like it. I've now got total confirmation that he's a pathological liar. No wonder the other members of his front bench think it's okay to tell lies. They're being taught by a master, you know. But don't think Trump is taken in by this. He's 100% all over
don't you think, Georgina, by the way, I like what you said about Big Ben and his face. You might want to say about Keir Starmer. You know, there are two things I don't like about Keir Starmer. His face. His face, yeah, that's it. I think Trump just thought, well, I've got a little pipsqueak here, you know, I'll go through the motions.
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't think politically or diplomatically Keir Starmer laid a glove on him.
No, well, I think Donald Trump's taken him into that room and give him his full pedigree. And I suppose that Keir will be adding his expenses for this trip to the £750,000 he's already ran up.
Yeah,
so
oh my God, yeah, will you stop flying everywhere? Do you notice Donald Trump has not left America, and he's been in power now about 40 days or something like that, has not left America. Keir Starmer has barely set foot in Britain.
It's like travelling Mac. I've never known anything like it in my life.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right. Georgina, I've got to go. The show's nearly over. Excellent call. Keep in touch. Call me again. Georgina in London. Let's quickly talk to Janice in Essex. Janice.
Hi, Kevin.
Hi.
Lovely to speak to you, and I ain't got long. I think you're all underestimating Starmer.
Oh, yeah?
He's a narcissist.
Well, he's a narcissist, but he's useless.
Around the world for 6 months.
Yeah.
Now he's playing with the big boys.
Yeah.
He's going to lose half his pie. He's going to roll back on the woke and everything else.
Yeah. We're not underestimating.
In the park with the big boys.
We're overestimating him, I think. I've got a note saying you don't understand why Trump is not vetoing the Chagos Islands deal.
I don't get
well,
that.
we don't know yet.
Absolutely don't understand that.
Well, hang on a second, Janice. That's what I wanted to say. We don't know yet. We don't know yet. Somebody should have asked him at that press conference, but they didn't.
No. He's got intelligent people around him.
They'll veto it, Janice. Janice, they'll veto it. They'll veto it. Damn well hope so, anyway. Janice, keep in touch. Gotta go now. Show nearly over. Great to talk to you, as always. Call me again. Can we just... I've got Ash in the studio. Hi, Ash.
Hi, man. How you doing, Kev?
I'm all right. Just going to quickly play
read them out, man.
A WhatsApp voice note, because it's Claire, and she does really good ones.
Yeah, you better
so let's play Claire.
Hi, Kev. What an absolute bore fest that was. I think Trump deliberately made his opening statement dull to make Keir Starmer look even worse. He looked absolutely terrified from the start to finish of that conference in Trump's shadow. A man who actually gets things done, that's Mr. Trump. From Claire and Lee in Buckley, some of your old friends.
Yeah, thank you, Claire. Always good to hear from you. And let's quickly, last one, Daz on Starmer and Trump as well.
Evening, Kev. Great show as usual. Keep it up, mate. Re-Tootie in that press conference. If you think that was toe curling, just wait for the next couple of days, mate, when his absolutely moronic moron ministers come out and start telling us how statesman he is, how he put Trump in his place, how he demanded this and he demanded that, and how he stood up to Trump, and what a global player he is, and he's put Britain back on the map after 14 years of Tory failure. You know it's going to happen on Sunday morning on the good old beam. Oh, mate, it's going to be... Well, I can't watch it. It'd just be nauseating. I'll be getting the sick bucket out.
Exactly right, Daz. They will. They'll all, oh, didn't he do well in Washington? Actually, he didn't do well.
Did he get 2 portions of chicken though, like Dave Lammy?
Yeah, well, yeah, Dave. Next time, Dave, only have 1 portion. Just a thought.
Yeah.
What's coming up?
We've got Tom Harris, Anna McGovern, BBC.